Chapter 608. When the system's notification ended, Yi-chun was stunned. Holy shit! What was going on? Yi-chun did not expect that such an inconspicuous monkey would have the bloodline of the six-eared macaque, one of the four great spiritual monkeys. Of course, this was not important. What was important was that after taking in the golden-haired monkey, he had attracted a special mission to make the four great spiritual monkeys recognize him as their master within 10,000 years. Damn, this mission, this was asking him to go against the two bald donkeys of the West. It was no wonder that Yi-chun thought so. After all, one of the four great spiritual monkeys, the wise stone monkey, was Sun Wukong. If Yi-chun took in Sun Wukong, he would definitely go against the two sages of the West. There was no doubt about that. Sun Wukong was the executor of the journey to the West. With Sun Wukong, there was the journey to the West. With Sun Wukong, there was the rise of Buddhism. If Yi-chun took in Sun Wukong in advance, he would definitely attract the hostility of the two sages of the West. After all, what Yi-chun did was no different from cutting off Buddhism's path to prosperity. In that case, it would be strange if the two monks, as the two sages of Buddhism, did not fight with Yi-chun. Of course, Yi-chun was not worried about going against the two sages of the West, because Yi-chun had opponents who were more difficult to deal with than the two sages of the West. For example, Yang Mei the great deity and Hongjun. Either one of them could kill the two sages of the West in minutes. Therefore, Yi-chun was not worried about going against the two sages of the West. However, although he was not worried, Yi-chun was a little confused at this moment, because the golden-haired monkey could attract a special mission to the four great spiritual monkeys. No matter how he looked at it, it was a little ridiculous. But the reality was that the golden-haired monkey had indeed attracted this mission. Of course, what was even more ridiculous was that among the four great spiritual monkeys, other than Sun Wukong, who had not been born and had a chance to be subdued, the rest were all adults and could not be subdued. It was no wonder that Yi-chun thought so. Whether it was spiritual beasts, immortal beasts, or divine beasts, once they reached adulthood, they would not be subdued. The four great spirit monkeys were divine beasts. Although they were called spirit monkeys, their identity as divine beasts was real. Therefore, the mission of the four great spirit monkeys was a little nonsensical. Thinking of this, Yi-chun couldn't help but frown. Since the quest had appeared, there was no way it couldn't be completed. However, in order to complete the mission, he had to subdue the four great spirit monkeys. Damn, no matter how you look at it, this mission is unsolvable, Yi-chun thought angrily. Suddenly, he froze. Wait a minute. The quest was triggered by the golden-haired monkey. It had the blood of the six-eared macaque. Could it be that subduing a monkey with the bloodline of the four great spirit monkeys and then nurturing it into one of the four great spirit monkeys? Thinking of this, Yi-chun's eyes lit up. F***CK. That must be it. Allowing a monkey with the bloodline of the four great spirit monkeys to evolve into one of the four great spirit monkeys was the same as the mission's requirement of the four great spirit monkeys recognizing their master. F***CK. I knew it. How could subduing a golden-haired monkey lead to such a huge mission? Thinking of this, Yi-chun felt as if 10,000 divine beasts were roaring in his heart. F***CK. This mission didn't even explain clearly. You want me to guess? But then again, this mission was a little troublesome. There could only be one of the four great spirit monkeys. In order to make a monkey recognize its master as one of the four great spirit monkeys, he had to kill the monkey they were replacing. So be it. The mission was the most important. Yi-chun finished his thought and looked at the mission's introduction. When Yi-chun saw the mission reward, the Great Tao Fusion Pearl, he couldn't help but be stunned. Then his eyes lit up. F***CK. Great Tao Fusion Pearl. The Great Tao Fusion Pearl was a kind of chaos-level treasure. Although it was a one-time use, it could fuse one's Great Tao into one. Whether it was attack or defense, it would be increased by tens of times or even hundreds of times. If it was used on a sage, its power would be unimaginably terrifying. In Yi-chun's previous life, the Great Tao Fusion Pearl had appeared. Then, it attracted countless mighty figures to fight over it. The scene was so lively that it almost shattered the Eldritch world. Unfortunately, in the end, no one got the Great Tao Fusion Pearl because it mysteriously disappeared. Yichen didn't know who got it, but that wasn't important. What was important was that as long as Yi Chun completed the special storyline mission, the 4 great spirit monkeys would get the Great Tao Fusion Pearl. And to Yi Chun, this was undoubtedly a great surprise. F***CK. Although the mission was difficult, the reward after completion was really good. Thinking of this, Yi Chun couldn't help but smile. Then, he looked at the feeble, golden-haired monkey. In the next second, Yi Chun waved his right hand, and a small pond made of stalactites appeared on the ground. The moment the small pond appeared, the feeble, golden-haired monkey's eyes widened. Then it shouted excitedly, "Master, this is 1,000-year stalactite milk." When Yi Chun heard this, he glanced at the golden-haired monkey, whose eyes were filled with longing, and then nodded with a smile. "That's right, it's 1,000-year stalactite milk. This can improve your aptitude and heal your injuries. However, it's useless to eat too much. I'll give it to you when there's something that can improve your aptitude." The golden-haired monkey had the bloodline of the 6-eared macaque, and it was related to the mission of the 4 great spirit monkeys. Now that it had recognized Yi Chun as its master and was loyal to Yi Chun naturally wouldn't be stingy with any treasures. "Thank you, master." When the golden-haired monkey heard this, it immediately revealed an extremely excited look. Then, it shouted at Yi Chun in an extremely friendly manner. Yi Chun nodded with a smile. Then, he waved his right hand, and 3,000-year stalactites instantly flew out of the small pond and toward the golden-haired monkey. When the golden-haired monkey saw this, it hurriedly opened its mouth and swallowed the 3,000-year stalactites. In the next second, a huge amount of energy suddenly exploded from the golden-haired monkey's body. Feeling the huge amount of energy, the golden-haired monkey's expression suddenly changed. Then, it hurriedly closed its eyes and absorbed it with all its might. When Yi Chun saw this, with a thought, the small pond containing the 1,000-year stalactites instantly disappeared. In the next second, Yi Chun moved his feet and went straight to the side of the Tree of Enlightenment. Looking at the 100-meter-tall Tree of Enlightenment, Yi Chun couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. "This Tree of Enlightenment belongs to me now." Thinking of this, Yi Chun directly picked up the seed of the Tree of World, then forced out a drop of essence blood and dripped it on it. In the next second, the seed of the Tree of World suddenly shook and then burst into starlight that filled the sky. After a few breaths, Yi Chun's essence blood was completely absorbed by the seed of the Tree of World. There was a buzz sound. The seed of the Tree of World instantly rushed into the storage space. In the next second, a loud sound that seemed to split heaven and earth suddenly came from Yi Chun's storage space. Boom! The sound was dull and long. Sensing the change, Yi Chun hurriedly probed into the storage space with his divine sense. When Yi Chun saw the huge changes that were happening in the storage space, his eyes suddenly lit up. There was no sky, no earth, and it was completely dark in the storage space. At this moment, just like when Pangu split the sky, a crack appeared in the middle, and then it quickly expanded again and again. Before long, there was a sky and earth in the storage space, and the area of the sky and earth was still expanding as the two kept getting farther and farther away. Looking at the storage space that was constantly changing, Yi Chun's eyes became brighter and brighter. This was the world. Although it was only in its embryonic form now, it was still a world that belonged to him, a world with infinite possibilities. Chapter 609. Just as Yi Chun thought of this, the changes in the space, or the small world, finally stopped. Yi Chun took a look at the small world that was 90,000 meters high and 9,000 kilometers in diameter. It had a sky, a ground, and a transparent shield on the edge. He couldn't help but smile. When this small world grows up, it can provide me with a steady stream of energy. At that time, I can fight wantonly without worrying about consumption at all. Thinking of this, Yi Chun laughed. Then, With a thought, his divine sense immediately withdrew from the small world. When Yi Chen's divine sense returned to his body, Yi Chen opened his eyes and looked at the 100-meter-tall tree of enlightenment. The next second, Yi Chen waved his right hand in the void. 5 space blades appeared in an instant and then quickly cut the ground around the tree of enlightenment. Hiss, hiss, hiss. After several sounds, the tree of enlightenment and the soil around it were cut open in an instant. Seeing this, Yi Chen moved his mind. The next second, the 100-meter-tall tree of enlightenment disappeared in an instant. Glancing at the tree of enlightenment that had been transplanted into the small world, Yi Chen nodded with satisfaction and then moved his mind. The next second, an extremely mysterious force appeared from the small world in an instant and then rushed to the supreme-grade spiritual spring with the upper-grade spiritual meridian sealed in it, snatched from the toad's secret realm. Crack! There was a sound. The sealed upper-grade spiritual meridian suddenly shattered. Boom! There was a loud sound. A huge amount of heaven and earth spiritual chi erupted from the upper-grade spiritual meridian in an instant. Seeing this, Yi Chen moved his mind, and the small world instantly emitted a mysterious force. Then, the spiritual chi that erupted from the upper-grade spiritual meridian was forcibly gathered within 100 meters around the tree of enlightenment. At the same time, the unsealed upper-grade spiritual meridian and the supreme-grade spiritual spring appeared below the tree of enlightenment. The seed of the tree of world hadn't sprouted yet, so it couldn't absorb the spiritual chi of heaven and earth from the void to nourish the worldlet. But the growth of the tree of enlightenment needed the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. Therefore, Yi Chen placed the superior spiritual vein that he had originally planned to place in Samsara City here. Otherwise, the Tao Comprehension Tea Tree would not be able to continue growing in the small world. Glancing at the Tao Comprehending Tea Tree, Yi Chen couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. As long as there was enough spirit chi and the small world grew, it could change the laws of time. This way, he would be able to obtain an endless supply of Tao Comprehension tea. Yi Chen's idea of an endless stream was that he could harvest Tao Comprehension tea every year, every month, or even every day. It wasn't like when the Tao Comprehension tea tree was in the outside world, where it matured for 100 years and harvested 999 leaves at once. At first glance, it seemed a little inconceivable. But in reality, Yi Chen was not delusional. As for the reason, it was in this small world created by the seed of the world tree. The world created by the seed of the world tree could evolve laws on its own. It could also be customized by the person who obtained the seed of the world tree. The small world that Yi Chen possessed now was created by the seed of the world tree. Therefore, Yi Chen definitely would not let the small world grow at will. To be precise, Yi Chen wanted to set the laws of time in this small world. Compared to the outside world, a small world with a special law of time would have an earth-shattering change in time. For example, 1,000 years in the small world would only pass a year, a month, or even a day in the outside world. This way, spirit herbs that took 1,000 years to mature in the outside world would only need a year, a month, or even a day in the outside world to mature in the small world. Therefore, Yi Chen's desire to obtain an endless supply of Tao Comprehension tea was not delusional at all. Of course, if he could obtain an endless supply of Tao Comprehension tea, he would definitely be able to obtain an endless supply of other spirit herbs. This was also the fundamental reason why Yi Chen had been so excited after obtaining the seed of the world tree. Of course, if he wanted the small world to become a heaven-defying and powerful spirit herb production base, he had to let the small world grow. Otherwise, everything would just be a fantasy. Letting the small world grow would definitely be difficult for others because the 5 elements' origins were hard to come by. But for me, it's not a problem at all at this thought. Yi Chen could not help but raise his eyebrows. Yi Chen was so confident because Yi Chen had the connate spiritual treasure that no one else had, the 5-element spirit pearl. As long as Yi Chen was willing, he could put the 5-element spirit pearl into the small world at any time. In this way, the small world would have the 5 basic elements, and they would be elemental powers of the origin. It was impossible for the small world not to grow rapidly. When the small world grew rapidly to a certain extent, Yi Chun could begin to set the laws of time. After that, he would be able to obtain an endless supply of various spirit herbs and Tao comprehension tea that could save his life. Of course, Yi Chun would definitely not do this now, because Yi Chun still needed to rely on the 5-element spirit pearl to advance to the 5 elements divine constitution. If he directly used the 5-element spirit pearl in the small world, then Yi Chun's plan to improve his aptitude would be ruined. At this thought, Yi Chun laughed, and then his consciousness left the small world. When Yi Chun's consciousness returned, and he opened his eyes, the golden-haired monkey, who had finished refining the Millennium Stalactite milk and had recovered from its injuries, suddenly bowed to Yi Chun and said, "This little monkey earnestly requests Master to avenge this little monkey." Avenge? Yi Chun was slightly taken aback when he heard this, and then he asked. The golden-haired monkey nodded heavily and said, "A group of poisonous snakes killed my clansmen." "Your clansmen? They were all spirit beasts?" Yi Chun was taken aback again when he heard this, and then he asked. The golden-haired monkey nodded sadly and said, "Master, my clansmen are all spirit beasts." "Master, Little Monkey's tribesmen are indeed all spirit beasts. The reason why Little Monkey uses blood to cultivate is because of that group of poisonous snakes." When Yi Chun saw the golden-haired monkey's sad face, he patted the golden-haired monkey's shoulder and then sighed. "Don't think about the past. Tell me the location of that place." The golden-haired monkey was stunned when he heard this. The golden-haired monkey did not expect that the master had just acknowledged Yi Chun would be so easy to talk to. In the golden-haired monkey's knowledge, this was something that did not exist. One had to know that Yi Chun had always shown himself to be cold and cruel. Otherwise, how could he have killed so many humans and so many demons without showing any signs of softening? Who would have thought that Yi Chun would be so easygoing to his subordinates? Thinking of this, the golden-haired monkey suddenly felt warm in its heart, and then it bowed to Yi Chun and said, "Master, thank you. However, Master, the poison of that group of poisonous snakes is very strong, especially that Snake King. Its poison can even corrode stone." When Yi Chun heard this, he smiled and said, "No matter. Since they are your enemies, there is no reason to let them go." When the golden-haired monkey heard this, its heart felt warm again, and then it bowed to Yi Chun solemnly and said, "This little monkey swears to follow Master until death. If I violate this oath, may the heavens and earth destroy me." When Yi Chun heard this, he nodded with a smile and said, "All right, tell me the location." "All right, tell me the location. I have to go somewhere else later. It's in a valley 825 miles northwest of here." When the golden-haired monkey heard this, it hurriedly said. After that, the golden-haired monkey suddenly thought of something and hurriedly said, "Master, there's an underground karst cave in that valley. There's a spiritual medicine inside that seems to be the youth-retaining fruit." Chapter 610. After Yi Chun heard the golden-haired monkey's words, his eyes suddenly lit up. Holy shit! Face-retaining fruit. The face-retaining fruit was an extremely special spiritual medicine, or a special heaven and earth treasure. It was not helpful for cultivation, but it had a heaven-defying effect: eternal youth. That's right, eternal youth. To be precise, when eating the face-retaining fruit, the appearance of the skin would always be maintained in that state, and would not change in the slightest because of the years. For Yi Chun, if there was a face-retaining fruit, he would definitely get it. As for the purpose, it was to give it to Zhao Yu, Chan Wan, Kai Mer, Mi Zhen, Huang Wan and Jinju Se. Although the girls were still in their late 20s, they had not yet cultivated, and as time passed, their appearance would definitely age. Yi Chun did not care much, and he had a way to keep the girl's skin tender, but Yi Chun could not keep the girl's appearance unchanged. In fact, even if one cultivated to become a fairy immortal, their appearance would change with the years, even if the process took tens of thousands of years or even millions of years, it would eventually change. It was precisely for this reason that the face-retaining fruit was a hot commodity even in the untainted world. There was no way. Women were born with no resistance to the face-retaining fruit, and there were too many women who had ascended to the untainted world. Thinking of this, Yi Chen's mind moved. In the next second, Yi Chen's divine sense instantly covered the valley 826 miles in the northwest. After a few breaths, Yi Chen could not help but frown. Sure enough, the underground cave was wrapped in a natural formation, and divine sense could not penetrate it. After Yi Chen heard the words face-retaining fruit, he immediately thought of the formation outside the underground cave where the face-retaining fruit grew. Otherwise, the aura emitted by the face-retaining fruit could not be hidden at all, and then it would attract countless monsters. In this way, no matter how many poisonous snakes there were, or how poisonous they could not protect the face-retaining fruit. Thinking of this, Yi Chen hurriedly looked at the golden-haired monkey and asked, "Are you sure there's a youth-retaining fruit there?" After the golden-haired monkey heard Yi Chen's question, it was slightly stunned. It didn't expect Yi Chen to value the face-retaining fruit so much. After regaining its senses, the golden-haired monkey hurriedly said, "Master, my clansmen and I have never seen the spiritual herb in the underground cave. However, there was one time when I went to seek revenge and heard the conversation of two poisonous snakes. They said that the Snake King wanted to give the fruit in the underground cave to the little princess of the Fox clan. This way, the little princess of the Fox clan would be able to maintain her youth, and the Snake King would be able to obtain the little princess' favor." When Yi Chen heard this, his eyes widened. "It's pretty close." Thinking of this, Yi Chen nodded and said, "Let's go. I'll take you to take revenge." After Yi Chen finished speaking, he grabbed the golden-haired monkey's shoulder and moved his mind. In the next second, the space in front of Yi Chen suddenly distorted. Glancing at the distorted space, Yi Chen took a step forward and disappeared. At the entrance of an unknown valley, hundreds of thousands of poisonous snakes of different colors and sizes were lazily basking in the sun. Not far away, a dense pack of trembling wild beasts was moving uneasily toward the snake swarm at the entrance of the valley. To be more precise, they were sending themselves to the mouths of the poisonous snakes at the entrance of the valley. This scene was very magical, but it was really happening. This was because this group of poisonous snakes ruled this mountain forest. If they didn't want to be exterminated, they had to obediently come over and be eaten by the poisonous snakes. At this moment, the space at the entrance of the valley suddenly distorted. In the next second, an extremely handsome young man appeared there with a golden-haired monkey. At this moment, the swarm of snakes that were lazily devouring the wild beasts were all stunned. Then, they looked at the young man and the golden-haired monkey in unison. In the next second, an extremely savage laugh suddenly sounded from the mouth of a pitch-black snake with a body as thick as a water bucket. "Ha ha ha! Female monkey, you've done well this time. You actually knew to bring someone over. This time, Master Snake King will definitely consider taking you as a beautiful concubine." When the golden-haired monkey heard this, its eyes instantly turned red. Its mouth opened fiercely and revealed its sharp teeth. At this moment, a cyan-colored snake that was the size of a wash basin suddenly narrowed its eyes and screamed, "Yi Chen, that person is Yi Chen. Hurry, hurry and report to Master Snake King. Yi Chen is here." As soon as the cyan-colored snake finished speaking, the poisonous snakes that were about to go along with the black snake froze. Obviously, these poisonous snakes had not only heard of Yi Chen's name. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been so frightened after hearing the cyan-colored snake's words. That was indeed the case. In the game world, some of these poisonous snakes were killed by Yi Chen with a single slap, while others were burned to death by Yi Chen. Of course, there were also those that were killed by Yi Chen's subordinates. It was because they had seen Yi Chen's cruel methods with their own eyes that they were so afraid of Yi Chen. Yi Chen looked at the frightened snakes and curled his lips in disdain. He then raised his right hand. In the next second, a gigantic palm, made entirely of white clouds, appeared in the sky. When the poisonous snakes saw this, they immediately screamed in fear. Run! Run! Damn it, I was killed by this palm in the game world. Don't block the way, get out of the way. The poisonous snakes screamed crazily and fled frantically. They were extremely fast because they were afraid. They were afraid that they would be killed again. When Yichin saw this, he smiled coldly and slapped the air with his right hand. Boom! A loud sound was heard. The sea of clouds churned and the wind howled. The gigantic palm that covered the sky instantly slapped down. Boom! The gigantic palm that covered the sky slapped the ground. In an instant, the earth trembled. The sound was like a giant drum made of cowhide, dull and long. After a few breaths, the white clouds that gathered to form the gigantic palm dispersed one by one. Then, the dense blood-red flesh and blood on the ground was revealed. Tens of thousands of poisonous snakes, without exception, were all killed on the spot. When the golden-haired monkey next to Yi-chun saw the blood-red flesh and blood on the ground, its eyes immediately lit up with joy and admiration. It had seen Yi-chun fight and experienced it firsthand. At that time, it was very scared and desperate and felt powerless to resist. But now, when it saw Yi-chun fight again, it no longer had the fear it had before. Instead, it only had the joy of revenge and strong admiration. Because it had recognized Yi-chun as its master, and also because Yi-chun was avenging it. Looking at the excited, golden-haired monkey, Yi-chun smiled and said, "That's right. When the poisonous snakes here are cleaned up, you can go to Samsara City and cultivate well. You can do the same in the future." "Yes, master." When the golden-haired monkey heard this, its eyes lit up and it hurriedly replied. When Yi-chun heard this, he smiled and nodded. Then, he directly rose into the air and flew towards the valley. At this moment, an extremely angry roar suddenly sounded. Who dares to attack my valley of the Poison King? Chapter 6:11. As soon as the voice fell, the black shadow arrived. A giant black snake that was at least 1,000 meters long was rapidly charging towards the valley, its demonic aura filling the air. Yi-chun, who was flying towards the valley, glanced at the angry giant black snake that was rapidly charging towards him. He curled his lips in disdain and waved his right hand. In the next second, the thick black godslayer appeared. At this moment, the rapidly charging giant black snake noticed Yi-chun and was momentarily stunned. The giant black snake had never imagined that the one who dared to attack its nest was a human. At the thought of this, an uncontrollable rage instantly surged. However, the giant black snake immediately froze on the spot, because it suddenly remembered what it meant to fly in the air, and also because it saw the black spear that scared it awake from its dreams. Could it be? It was him. It had to be him. Thinking of this, the giant black snake's 2 water tank-sized snake eyes suddenly shrank, and then it shrieked, "Yi-chun! You're Yi-chun!" Obviously, the giant black snake recognized Yi-chun and feared Yi-chun from the bottom of its heart. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so afraid and even shrieking. After Yi-chun heard the giant black snake's terrified shriek, he curled his lips in disdain and shouted, "Die, you bastard!" After Yi-chun finished speaking, he didn't stop and directly rushed towards the giant black snake with the Godslayer in his hand. To Yi-chun, the giant black snake was just a demonic beast, an ant-like existence. How could Yi-chun care about it? When the giant black snake saw this, how could it not understand that Yi-chun wanted to kill it? At this moment, the giant black snake suddenly shuddered. Without thinking, it opened its mouth and spat at Yi-chun. Pooh! A sound was heard. The giant black snake instantly spat out a large mass of black and stinking venom. At the same time, the giant black snake turned around and fled without hesitation. Clearly, it did not dare to go against Yi-chun, because this was the real world, and because Yi-chun had used that black spear that could devour souls. At this moment, the giant black snake was extremely flustered and terrified. This was because it had never imagined that the one who would come knocking on its door would not be one of its own kind as it had imagined. Instead, it would be the number one person of the human race that it feared the most, Yi Chun. What about teaching the bastard who came knocking on its door a lesson? What about killing the bastard who came knocking on its door? To the giant black snake, it was all nonsense. Right now, it only had one thing on its mind, which was to hurry back to the underground cave and use the formation there to save its little life. Yi Chun, who was flying rapidly towards the giant black snake, glanced at the giant black snake that had spat out the venom and turned to flee. He smiled coldly and slapped the venom with his left hand. Bang! A loud sound was heard. The stinking black venom was instantly swept away by a gust of wind. At this moment, Yi Chun also flew past and chased after the giant black snake. In the blink of an eye, Yi Chun had arrived behind the giant black snake. He stabbed the God Slayer in his right hand into the giant black snake's head without hesitation. Pooh! A sound was heard. The God Slayer effortlessly pierced through the giant black snake's head. In the next second, the sound of a body exploding was suddenly heard. Bang! The giant black snake's head exploded in an instant. Bright red snake blood, grayish-white brain matter, and countless broken bones splattered everywhere. At the same time, the God Slayer flashed, and the giant black snake soul was instantly devoured by the God Slayer. The giant black snake was the Snake King here. It was directly killed by Yi Chun on the spot. However, its body did not immediately stiffen. Instead, it involuntarily curled up, rolled, and began to roll. As the giant black snake's huge body rolled, a series of collision sounds were heard. Bang, bang, bang. The trees in the valley were broken one by the giant black snake's rolling body. Yi Chun glanced at the giant black snake's corpse, and then looked at the snakes in the valley that were stunned because of the giant black snake's death. In the next second, Yi Chun pointed in the air. Boom, boom, boom. A series of thunder sounds were heard instantly. At the same time, hundreds of thousands of lightning bolts appeared out of thin air and directly struck the remaining poisonous snakes in the valley. At this moment, the entire valley was illuminated by light blue lightning. A burst of terrifying lightning power erupted and covered the entire valley. ZZ, thousands of tiny lightning bolts wandered freely and burned all the living things in the valley that came into contact with them. Bang, bang, bang. Countless snake eggs began to explode all over the valley. After the time it took to drink a cup of tea, the entire valley was completely quiet. A fishy smell mixed with the smell of meat slowly rose up. Glancing at the cleared valley, Yi Chun waved his left hand. A violent air explosion was heard instantly. Boom! A gust of wind appeared in an instant and then swept up the dust in the valley. The pungent smell and the aroma of roasted snake meat soared into the sky. In the next second, Yi Chun flew straight into the depths of the valley. When Yi Chun arrived at the depths of the valley and landed at the foot of the mountain, he was stunned. Holy shit, there was actually a peach forest here, and it was a forest that specialized in producing spirit peaches. That's right, the golden-haired monkey's clansmen were all spirit beasts. If there wasn't a spirit fruit forest here, the golden-haired monkey's clansmen wouldn't have settled down here. Thinking of this, Yi Chun's right hand continuously swiped in the air. In the next second, countless spatial blades appeared and cut towards the ground. ZZ. Countless sounds like cloth being cut rang out. The entire peach forest was cut down by Yi Chun's spatial blades in an instant. Seeing this, Yi Chun's mind moved. In the next second, the peach forest disappeared in an instant. Glancing at the peach forest that suddenly appeared in the small world, Yi Chun nodded in satisfaction. Not bad. Not bad. I didn't expect to have an unexpected harvest. Although spirit peaches couldn't be compared to spirit herd for the time being, their grade could still be improved over time. Moreover, their taste wasn't bad. Thinking of this, Yi Chun smiled slightly and then directly released his divine sense. In the next second, the entire valley and the mountain that formed it were instantly enveloped by Yi Chun's divine sense. After a few breaths of time, Yi Chun took a step forward and disappeared. When Yi Chun reappeared, he was already at the top of the mountain in the east of the valley. There was a huge rock here. It didn't look very impressive and was covered with cracks caused by the wind, sun, and rain. No matter who saw this huge rock, they would only treat it as an ordinary rock. However, Yi-chan directly rushed towards this huge rock. When Yi-chan arrived next to the huge rock, he glanced at it, and then the corners of his mouth curled up. He didn't expect that the core of the natural formation that enveloped the underground cave would be a top-grade spirit stone, and such a big one at that. Thinking of this, Yi-chan couldn't help but raise his eyebrows and then hit the huge rock with his right hand. Bang! A loud sound rang out. In the next second, an incomparably dense sound of something breaking through the air instantly rang out. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Chapter 612. Countless gravel burst out from the boulder in an instant, and then broke through the air, flying rapidly towards the distance. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The boulder continued to crumble, and as its body continued to crumble, it continued to shrink and shrink. After a cup of tea's time, the boulder's body shrank to half of its original size. At this moment, hundreds of purple light suddenly burst out from the boulder. Seeing this, the corners of Yi-chan's mouth could not help but curl up. Sure enough, this was a piece of top-grade spirit stone. Laozi's deduction was correct. Yi-chan had released his divine sense just now in order to search for the formation eye of the natural formation that covered the underground cave. If he could not detect it, Yi-chan was prepared to wantonly destroy the terrain here, and then let the natural formation automatically collapse. In this way, Yi-chan could directly enter the underground cave and get the face-retaining fruit. Who would have thought that when Yi-chan used his spiritual consciousness to explore the terrain here, preparing to deduce the natural formation's formation eye, he accidentally discovered a huge piece of raw spirit stone. Yes, it was a raw spirit stone. Its outer skin was no different from ordinary stones, but these outer skins had the effect of confining spiritual energy, isolating the exploration of spiritual consciousness. When Yi-chan discovered this raw stone, he immediately made a judgment. This was a piece of top-grade spirit stone, because the size of this raw spirit stone was really too big, and it happened to be on the natural formation eye that Yi-chan deduced. In this life, Yi-chan had not learned about formations, but in the previous life, Yi-chan had roughly learned it. After all, in the previous life, Yi-chan was a cannon fodder. If he wanted to live, he needed to have enough ability to survive. And formations could let Yi-chan explore any cave, secret realm, and have a higher chance of survival. Of course, Yi-chan's knowledge of formations was not very high, but the natural formation here could be used by the giant black snake, and it was not advanced in itself. Otherwise, the giant black snake would not have been able to enter the underground cave. It was also for this reason that Yi-chan had slaughtered the giant black snake. After all, it would take time to threaten the giant black snake and have it lead him through the formation into the underground cave. As for Yi-chan, he had already determined that the grade of this natural array formation wasn't high. How could he waste time on the giant black snake? Of course, this wasn't important. What was important was that Yi-chan had already deduced that the spirit or used as the eye of the array was a top-grade spirit stone. And now, the stone that was constantly emitting purple light through the crack had clearly told Yi-chan one thing. This was a top-grade spirit stone. It was 2 meters high, 5 meters long, and 3 meters wide. Looking at the top-grade spirit stone covered by a thin layer of stone, Yi-chan's mood was carefree. Compared to this one, the 10 top-grade spirit stones he had gotten from the lottery draw before were pathetically small. Damn it, top-grade spirit stones are so hard to come by. Why is there such a big one here? Could it be that it fell when the meteor fell? It was no wonder that Yi-chan thought so. After all, top-grade spirit stones were rare in the world. It was only possible to find one in a large spirit stone mine, and it was only the size of a fist. And the size of the top-grade spirit stone here was simply terrifying. No matter how it came about, no matter if anyone had obtained this top-grade spirit stone in his previous life, now, this giant top-grade spirit stone belonged to him. Thinking of this, Yi-chan couldn't help laughing wildly. Then, he gently patted the top-grade spirit stone that was only covered by a thin layer of stone material. Crack, crack. Dozens of sounds were heard. The thin layer of stone material that had just wrapped the top grade spirit stone cracked in an instant, and then peeled off from the top grade spirit stone. In the next second, the purple light shone brightly, instantly illuminating the sky. Looking at the giant top grade spirit stone that was purple all over and constantly emitting purple light, Yi Chen's mouth curled up, and then his mind moved. In the next second, the giant top grade spirit stone disappeared in an instant. At this moment, a boom sound was heard. A white column of air suddenly rose from the valley and then went straight to the sky. Yi Chen glanced at the white column of air, and his eyebrows couldn't help but raise. The formation was broken. Thinking of this, Yi Chen glanced at the giant top-grade spirit stone that was received into the small world, and then flew directly to the valley. After a few breaths, Yi Chen came to the depths of the valley, at the entrance of an underground karst cave. Glancing at the entrance of the underground karst cave that was completely exposed, Yi Chen smiled slightly, and then flew straight in. The karst cave was very large and deep. The light inside was dim. There were many forks, and the ground was covered with sharp stalagmites. If an ordinary human came here, it would be difficult to take each step, and it would be easy to get lost. But for Yi Chen, it was not a problem at all. Because Yi Chen had spiritual awareness and could fly, the complex terrain of the karst cave could not restrict Yi Chen at all. After a cup of tea's time, Yi Chen passed through 8 forks, and then came to the entrance of a hole the size of a football field. Glancing at the hole in front of him and finding no abnormalities, Yi Chen flew directly in. In the next second, a small sapling growing alone in the hole instantly entered Yi Chen's line of sight. It was only as thick as a thumb, and it was no more than half a meter high. There were a total of 10 branches, and each branch had a red fruit hanging on it. The moment he saw it, Yi Chen was slightly stunned, and his eyes opened fiercely. F***CK. It turned out to be a god-level face-retaining fruit. It was no wonder that Yi Chen was so surprised. Under normal circumstances, the face-retaining fruit should be a spiritual medicine similar to weeds. Once a sapling appeared, the face-retaining fruit's grade would be improved, and it would obtain a special function to improve one's root bone. To be precise, the face-retaining fruit whose parent became a sapling would be improved with the increase of branches of the parent sapling, which was the sapling. Among them, the highest grade was the god-level face-retaining fruit, and the parent sapling was the face-retaining fruit tree with 10 branches. And the sapling in the hole was the face-retaining fruit tree with 10 branches. Damn it, if it's true, I've really made a big profit this time. Yi Chen was very obsessed with improving his root bone. It should be known that the aborigines in the untainted world all had high root bones, and their cultivation speed was extremely fast. Yi Chen wanted to let himself and his subordinates cultivate quickly and improve their cultivation after ascending to the untainted world, so he had to improve his root bone and his subordinates. Otherwise, it would be difficult for Yi Chen to rise. Of course, Yi Chen now had an immortal spiritual body, and his root bone was barely passable. Soon, he would use the 5-star spiritual pearl to advance to the 5 elements divine body. In this way, Yi Chen's root bone was only 1 level lower than a divine body, and he could be considered to have entered the upper ranks. However, Yi Chen's women and Yi Chen's subordinates did not have good root bones. And now, Yi Chen had found a god-level face-retaining fruit, which was extremely rare even in the untainted world. How could he not be shocked and excited? Thinking of this, Yi Chen moved his feet and went directly to the small tree. After carefully looking at the 10 fruits on the small tree and smelling the smell of the fruits, Yi Chen's eyes suddenly brightened. Damn it, it's really a god-level face-retaining fruit. This time, Zhao Yu, Chen Wan, Kai Mei and the others could directly improve their root bones. He did not know whether they would directly become immortal spiritual bodies or something else. No matter what, he had really made a big profit this time. Chapter 613. Thinking of this, Yi Chen raised his eyebrows and waved his right hand in the air. After a few buzzing sounds, 5 space blades appeared in an instant and went straight to the ground around the immortal beauty fruit tree. Crackle, crackle. 5 sounds like rags being torn were heard. In the next second, with a thought from Yi Chun, the god-tier face retaining fruit tree and the soil around it instantly disappeared. Yi Chun glanced at the huge and flat hole that appeared after the god-tier face retaining fruit tree disappeared. He smiled and then used his divine sense to look at the god-tier face retaining fruit tree that had been transplanted into the small world. When Yi Chun confirmed that the immortal beauty fruit tree did not wither or even die, he let out a long breath. Fortunately, the small world allowed plants to grow on their own from the beginning. Otherwise, they cannot be transplanted here. Fortunately, he got the seed of the world tree and made the small world. Otherwise, whether it was the enlightenment tea tree or the immortal beauty fruit tree, he could not maximize the benefits. Yi Chun wanted to maximize the benefits, so he used the small world to set the time rule at a ratio of 1,000 to 1, 100 million to 1, or even 1 million to 1, so that he could continuously harvest the enlightenment tea tree and the immortal beauty fruit tree. After using the 5-element spirit pearl and advancing to the 5 elements divine body, he could start to cultivate the small world. Thinking of this, Yi Chun's divine sense immediately withdrew from the small world and then flew straight up and left the underground Karst cave. When Yi Chun came out of the underground Karst cave, the golden-haired monkey who was guarding the entrance of the underground Karst cave hurriedly bowed and said, "Master, well, let's go to some Samsara city." Hearing this, Yi Chun nodded and said. After that, he grabbed the golden-haired monkey's shoulder and made a move with his mind. In the next second, the space in front of Yi Chun suddenly distorted. After glancing at the distorted space, Yi Chun took a step forward and disappeared. In the hall of the city lord's mansion in Samsara City, the space suddenly distorted. In the next second, 10 light balls appeared out of thin air. When the light dispersed, Zhao Yu, Chan Wan, Mi Zhen, Kai Mei Huang Wan Zhen Zhu, Zhen Jiang, Zhen Ta, Zhen Dao, and Zhen Rong appeared. The flaming tiger Yi Lin, who was waiting for Yi Chun's return, and the treasure hunter fish Yi Xiaoyu were stunned. In the next second, the flaming tiger Yi Lin hurriedly pulled the treasure hunting fish Yi Xiaoyu forward and bowed. Yi Lin greets the sisters. When Yi Xiaoyu, who was being pulled by the flaming tiger Yi Lin, heard this, she hurriedly bowed and said, "Greetings, big sisters, Xiaoyu." When the girls heard this, they all laughed and looked at the treasure-hunting fish, Yi Xiaoyu, who had transformed into a 5-year-old lowly. Flaming tiger, Yi Lin hurriedly explained when she saw the girls' puzzled gazes. Her original form is a treasure-hunting fish, and she has reached the mortal evolution state. She ate the transformation grass and transformed. I see. Zhao Yu was enlightened. She looked at the treasure-hunting fish, Yi Xiaoyu, and said kindly, come to big sister." When the treasure-hunting fish Yi Xiaoyu found that the girls were very easygoing, she was overjoyed and called out sweetly, "Yes, big sister." Yi Xiaoyu, the treasure-hunting fish, skipped over to Zhao Yu's side. Zhao Yu looked at the treasure-hunting fish Yi Xiaoyu who had come to her side. She smiled and patted her little head. Then, she took out a precious pearl hairpin and inserted it into Yi Xiaoyu's hair. When the treasure-hunting fish saw this, her big eyes lit up, and she called out happily, "Thank you, big sister." Obviously, even though Yi Xiaoyu was only 5 years old when she transformed, she had no immunity to jewelry. When Zhao Yu heard this, she smiled and said, "As long as you like it. Xiaoyu, come, this is for you." Chan Wan took out a precious necklace and said to Yi Xiaoyu, "Thank you, big sister." Yi Xiaoyu was even happier when she heard this. When Kai Mei Huang Wan Mi Zhen, and the 5 Zhen sisters saw this, they all smiled and took out precious jewelry to give to the treasure-hunting fish Yi Xiaoyu. The girls weren't trying to compete, but they really did like Yi Xiaoyu, this cute little lowly. Of course, the other reason was that they knew that the treasure-hunting fish was going to help Yi Chun's search for spirit herbs and spirit beast eggs. Therefore, the girls had to treat the treasure-hunting fish Yi Xiaoyu the same way they treated the flaming tiger Yi Lin. The girls chatted with the treasure-hunting fish Yi Xiaoyu and the flaming tiger Yi Lin for a while before walking to the diamond gaming capsule. They came to the real world to see Yi Chun, not a play. After all, Yi Chun often led troops to battle and rarely returned to the Samsara city in the game world. If the girls wanted to see Yi Chun, they had to come to the real world. Who would have thought that the girls would see an empty diamond-level game capsule? While the girls were stunned, the space in the hall of the city lord's mansion suddenly distorted. In the next second, Yi Chun stepped out with the golden-haired monkey and appeared here. When the girls saw this, they all breathed a sigh of relief, and then called out to Yi Chun sweetly, "Greetings, my husband." Hearing the women's affectionate greetings, Yi Chun felt warmth in his heart. He looked at the women and said, he looked at the girls and said, "You came at the right time." After saying this, Yi Chun used his mind, and 10 immortal gear-retaining fruits appeared in an instant, and then flew straight to the girls. Zhao Yu, Chan Wan, Kai Mei Mi Zhen, Huang Weiner, and Zhen Jiesa were all stunned when they saw this. Then they looked at Yi Chun at the same time and asked, "My husband, what is this?" Immortal gear-retaining fruits. When Yi Chun heard the girl's question, he couldn't help but smile and then said. As soon as Yi Chun finished speaking, the girls suddenly showed a blank expression. Obviously, the girls didn't know about the immortal gear-retaining fruits. Even Huang Weiner, who knew a lot about Chimanduanjia, was no exception. Seeing the confused expressions of the girls, Yi Chun laughed awkwardly and then explained, "That's right. The immortal gear-retaining fruits are a special kind of elixir. After eating it, your face will never change, and it can't." Before Yi Chun finished speaking, the girls picked up the immortal gear-retaining fruits floating in front of them without hesitation and took a bite. Obviously, after knowing that the immortal gear-retaining fruits could preserve their youth, their resistance was directly reduced to a negative value. Otherwise, they wouldn't have just listened to half of what he said and started eating. Seeing this, Yi Chun's words came to an abrupt end. Looking at the girls helplessly, Yi Chun used his mind and then used his right hand to suck in the void. In the next second, a giant tree with a diameter of 5 meters and a height of hundreds of meters outside Samsara City was instantly torn down by its roots and then flew rapidly towards Samsara City. At the same time, Yi Chun flicked his fingers and countless space blades flew out in an instant. After a few breaths, they met the giant tree flying towards Samsara City. Sizzle, sizzle. Hundreds of sounds were heard. The giant tree, which was originally intact, broke in an instant and then turned into 10 smooth and clean bathtubs. In the next second, the 10 bathtubs flew straight to Samsara City and then came to the hall of the Castellan's mansion. Glancing at the 10 bathtubs, Yi Chun nodded with satisfaction. Then he looked at Flaming Tiger Yi Lin and said, "Go and prepare some water. The ladies are going to take a bath soon." Flaming Tiger Yi Lin was a flaming tiger, so she could naturally release flames. Boiling water was very easy for Flaming Tiger Yi Lin. Hearing this, Flaming Tiger Yi Lin was slightly stunned and then hurriedly nodded and said, "Okay, brother." Chapter 614. After saying that, the Flaming Tiger Yi Lin waved her right hand, and the 10 bathtubs flew out with the Flaming Tiger Yi Lin. After eating the fruit, Zhao Yu, Chan Wan, Mi Zhen, Kai Mei Huang Wan Zhen Jusei, Zhen Jiang, Zhen Ta, Zhen Dao, and Zhen Rong looked at each other and blushed. Then they looked at Yi Chun and called out, "Husband." The women's words were filled with shyness. There was nothing they could do about it. After hearing Yi Chun say that the fruit could preserve eternal youth, they couldn't listen to anything else. There were only 3 words in their minds. Eat it. That's right, it was these 3 words. In the end, the women did not hesitate to take action. Now that they had finished eating the god-tier face retaining fruit, the women naturally became shy. After all, they had been too impatient, so it was a bit rude. Yi Chun looked at the girls' shy faces and couldn't help but smile. Then, he said, "All right, we're a family, so there's no need to be so particular, right? In a bit, your bones will be upgraded. During this process, your body will expel a lot of impurities, so there's no need to worry. Yi Chun knew from the start what the women didn't want to face but had to face. Therefore, Yi Chun didn't mind at all. When the girls heard that the god-tier face-retaining fruit could retain eternal youth, they all lost their calm and picked up the fruit to eat. After all, they were all Yi Chun's women. Yi Chun had taken out the fruit for them to eat. Moreover, Yi Chun knew very well that the reason why the women had completely lost their cool after hearing about the god-tier face-retaining fruit was not only because they didn't want to face aging, but also because they wanted to use their most perfect faces to accompany Yi Chun until they passed away. It had to be known that the women were still mortals, while Yi Chun was already a god martial realm expert with a lifespan of 3,000 years. If they didn't cultivate, they could only accompany Yi Chun for 100 years. Within that 100 years, they would begin to age in a dozen or so years. Their faces would change, and they would grow wrinkles, freckles, and so on. All kinds of aging symptoms would come to them. They didn't want that, so they longed for eternal youth. Only then could they accompany Yi Chun in their most perfect state. It was precisely because of this that the women did not hesitate to eat the god-rank face-retaining fruit after Yi Chun told them about its effects. They knew that Yi Chun could live for a very, very long time, so long that they couldn't even imagine it. The god-tier face-preserving fruit could only preserve one's youth forever, so it wasn't very useful to Yi Chun. Otherwise, they definitely wouldn't have eaten it. Hearing Yi Chun's words, all the girls felt warmth in their hearts, but in the next moment, they were dumbfounded. In the next second, Huang Wan who was the most knowledgeable, looked at Yi Chun in shock and then asked, "Husband, that fruit can improve one's foundation?" Zhao Yu, Kai Mei Chan Wan, Mi Zhen, and Zhen Juesa all looked at Yi Chun when they heard this. Yi Chun glanced at the women and then said with a smile, "It can indeed. According to my estimation, you should be able to skip the Khanate Taoism aptitude and directly reach the immortal spirit body. As for the specific level of the immortal spirit body, it's hard to determine." Husband, the women's expressions changed when they heard this, and then they all cried out in shock. At this moment, the women's faces were all filled with extreme regret. Obviously, they regretted eating the god-tier face, preserving fruit so quickly. In their opinion, since this god-tier face preserving fruit could improve one's constitution, it should have been given to Yi Chun. Only then did the women remember that when Yi Chun introduced the fruit, he seemed to have only said half of it. Looking at the regretful and self-blaming women, Yi Chun suddenly felt a warm current in his heart, and then he said apologetically, "I have a better way to upgrade my bone structure. This god-tier face retaining fruit is useless to me now. Moreover, it won't be long before this fruit can be mass-produced. It may be produced in a year, a month, or even 10 per day. Don't worry so much." Yi Chun had a lot of good things on him, and he also had a lot of plans. It's just that Yi Chun didn't tell the girls about it. Otherwise, the girls wouldn't have felt so sad and blamed themselves after hearing that the god-rank face retaining fruit could improve one's root bone. And this was the fundamental reason why Yi Chun suddenly felt apologetic when he saw the women's regretful and self-blaming expressions. After hearing Yi Chun's words, the women were stunned, and then they all breathed a sigh of relief. At this moment, the women's bodies emitted a red light. In the next second, traces of greasy impurities instantly seeped out of the women's bodies. Noticing the abnormal changes, the women were startled at first, but then they suddenly remembered what Yi Chun had just said and calmed down. However, the women's faces immediately turned red, because the greasy impurities seeping out of their bodies had a somewhat unpleasant smell. Seeing this, Yi Chun directly looked at the treasure-hunting fish, Yi Xiaoyu, and the golden-haired monkey, and then said, "Okay, you two can go out first. The women would definitely have to wash up later." Although the treasure-hunting fish and the golden-haired monkey were female, they were not the women's maids after all. Staying here would naturally make the women a little uncomfortable. "Yes, big brother, master." The treasure-hunting fish and the golden-haired monkey were slightly stunned when they heard this, but then they nodded in unison. Although they did not know why Yi Chun wanted them to go out, they would not disobey Yi Chun's orders. After the treasure-hunting fish Yi Xiaoyu, and the golden-haired monkey left the hall. Yi Chun raised his hand, and the door of the hall immediately closed. Seeing this, Yi Chun immediately looked at the women and said, "Take off your clothes. I'll give you a wash later. When the hot water is ready, you can soak for a while. This way, the smell will be gone." Hearing this, the women's faces all turned red, and then they all lowered their heads and said, "Husband, can you go out for a while?" They had no choice. Although the women were Yi Chun's women, they had never done this together. Moreover, they were doing this in front of Yi Chun, so it was inevitable that they would be shy. Of course, although they were shy, the women did not feel disgusted. However, the women did not want to show their dirty side in front of Yi Chun, especially when they thought that there might be a stronger smell later. The women could not stay calm. Yi Chun was slightly stunned when he heard this. Then he nodded helplessly and said, "Okay." After Yi Chun finished speaking, he directly stepped out and then disappeared from the hall of the city lord's mansion. Seeing this, the women all breathed a sigh of relief and then began to tidy up one by one. Time passed little by little. When Yi Chun's divine sense detected that the women's bodies were no longer expelling impurities, he moved his mind. In the next second, 10 bathtubs filled with warm water instantly flew up from the small lake and then flew straight into the distorted space. When they reappeared, they were already in the hall of the city lord's mansion. When the women saw the 10 bathtubs, they jumped in without thinking and then desperately cleaned themselves. Yi Chun, who had been using his divine sense to check the women, sighed secretly when he saw this. Then he looked at the women's attribute panel. When Yi Chun saw the bone structure attributes on the women's attribute panel, his eyes suddenly widened. F***CK. 6-star immortal spirit body. Chapter 615. Yi Chun knew that the god-level beauty retaining fruit was very powerful, and he also knew that the girls who ate it could upgrade to an immortal spirit body. But Yi Chun had never thought that they could directly upgrade to a 6-star immortal spirit body. In Yi Chun's knowledge, a 3-star immortal spirit body was the limit. Who would have thought that this was not the case at all? Without exception, all the girls had a 6-star immortal spirit body. This was undoubtedly a great surprise for Yi Chun. Because Yi Chun had a small world, as long as it grew, he could continuously harvest god-level beauty retaining fruits. In this way, Yi Chun's subordinates could all upgrade to a 6-star immortal spirit body. What kind of concept was a 6-star immortal spirit body? Think about it. Yi Chun was only a 1-star immortal spirit body, even with the support of a large number of innate attribute points. Therefore, the god-level beauty retaining fruit was a great surprise for Yi Chun. With an endless supply of god-level beauty retaining fruits, Yi Chun's plan to train his subordinates would be realized even faster. Relatively speaking, the possibility of Yi Chun gaining a firm foothold in the untainted world would also be greatly increased. Just as Yi Chun thought of this, a whirlpool of spiritual energy suddenly appeared in the sky above the city lord's mansion. Seeing this, Yi Chun could not help but smile. The immortal spirit body automatically absorbed the spiritual energy between heaven and earth. Zhao Yu, Chan Wan, Kai Mei Mi Zhen, Huang Wan and the 5 Zhen sisters, this time, even if they did not cultivate, their strength would still advance by leaps and bounds. However, it was best to have cultivation methods. Thinking of this, Yi Chun's consciousness moved, and his divine sense immediately entered the small world. After carefully sifting through them, Yi Chun waved his right hand, and 10 Xiantian cultivation methods appeared in an instant, and then all of them drilled into the suddenly distorted space. In the next second, the 10 Xiantian cultivation methods disappeared. In the hall of the city lord's mansion, the girls, who had just washed up and put on new clothes, were all stunned when they saw the books suddenly appear in front of them. In the next second, Zhao Yu, who was the first to follow Yi Chun, suddenly smiled and said, "That's right. My husband must have prepared it for us. Let's just learn it." "Yes, sister." When Chan Wan, Mi Zhen, Kai Mei Huang Wan and Jinju Sei heard this, the 5 sisters came back to their senses and replied. After saying that, The girls each picked up the Xiantian cultivation method floating in front of them and chose to use it. 10 balls of light appeared instantly as the girls used them, and then flew straight into the girls' sea of consciousness. After the time it took to finish a cup of tea, all of the women opened their eyes at the same time and then shouted in surprise, Xiantian cultivation technique. They had never thought that the cultivation method that Yi Chun had prepared for them was a Xiantian cultivation method. Although the women hadn't cultivated before, Huang'er was knowledgeable among them, so they knew the different levels of cultivation methods. Of course, the girls also knew how precious Xiantian cultivation methods were, which were basically impossible to appear in the mortal world. But now the cultivation methods that they had learned were all Xiantian cultivation methods. How could they not know what this meant? At this moment, all the women felt a surge of warmth in their hearts, wave after wave. After a long while, the girls calmed down. At this moment, a strong aura suddenly appeared from Zhao Yu's body. Zhao Yu, who felt that something was wrong, was stunned for a moment, and then hurriedly checked her body. In the next second, Zhao Yu shouted in shock, I've entered the Xiantian realm. As soon as Zhao Yu's words fell, Chan Wan, Chimere, Huang Mi Zhen, and Zhen Jusei, who were about to congratulate her, almost simultaneously released a strong aura. Seeing this, the girls hurriedly checked their own bodies. In the next second, Chan Wan, Chimere, Huang Wan, Mi Zhen, and Zhen Jusei shouted in surprise, I've also entered the Xiantian realm. As soon as the girls finished speaking, they suddenly thought of something. After looking at each other, they exclaimed in unison, the god-rank face retaining fruit. At this moment, the girls understood how they could enter the Xiantian realm in such a short time. They didn't even have time to react. At this moment, a feeling of bliss filled the hearts of the girls once again. Zhao Yu, who was the first to follow Yi Chun, let out a long breath, then looked at Chan Wan, Chimere, and the others and said, before, weren't we worried that we wouldn't be able to accompany our husband forever? Now that our husband has given us a chance, we have to work hard to cultivate. And work hard to cultivate. Chan Wan, Chimere, Mi Zhen, Huang Wan and Zhen Jusei nodded in agreement. In the front yard of the city lord's mansion, Yi Chun, who had been using his divine sense to check the hall, couldn't help but smile. I'll prepare all the cultivation resources. Yi Chun naturally liked that the girls were going to work hard to cultivate. After all, Yi Chun also wanted the girls to stay by his side forever. If it was in the past, Yi Chun wouldn't be able to provide any help to the girls. This was because at that time, Yi Chun didn't have any resources or cultivation methods. Moreover, the girls' constitution was very poor. But now Yi Chun got a huge piece of extreme Great Spirit Stone. He even got 10 extreme Great Spirit Stones from the lottery. When you go back, give some to Feng Xiao, Yin Zheng, and the others. Yes, husband. When the girls heard this, their eyes lit up and they responded in unison. Obviously, the girls knew that Yi Chun gave them good things, but they only knew that these things were helpful for cultivation. They didn't know what was so good about them. Otherwise, they wouldn't just be excited. When Yi Chun heard this, he nodded with a smile and said, I still have some matters to deal with. I still have things to take care of in this world. You guys should go back early. When everything is over, I'll accompany you guys. Yes, husband. When the girls heard this, they hurriedly responded. Although the girls wanted to spend more time with Yi Chun, they knew what was important. Naturally, they wouldn't disturb Yi Chun because of their thoughts. Yi Chun looked at the girls apologetically and nodded. Then he jumped into the air and shouted to Yi Lin, who was waiting by the small lake. Yi Lin. After responding, the flaming tiger Yi Lin jumped up and came to Yi Chun's side. Coming, brother. When Yi Chun saw this, he hugged the flaming tiger Yi Lin's waist and moved his mind. In the next second, the space in front of Yi Chun suddenly distorted. At the same time, Yi Chun took a step forward and disappeared. Yi Chun had to clear out the special Monster Clan players in the real world, so he didn't have much time to waste. If it weren't for the sudden arrival of the girls, Yi Chun would have left Samsara City after obtaining the Enlightenment Tea Tree and a huge supreme-grade spiritual stone. Of course, Yi Chun didn't blame the girls in his heart just because they were delayed for a while. For Yi Chun was sincerely happy that the girls could come to the real world to visit Yi Chun. It was because they truly liked and loved Yi Chun that they came to the real world. They didn't come here to waste Yi Chun's time. Yi Chun knew this very well. Naturally, he wouldn't blame the girls for this. To be precise, Yi Chun loved the girls more than anything. How could he blame them? Chapter 616. South of Samsara City, 3,800 miles away, outside a cave halfway up a mountain, the space was suddenly distorted. In the next second, a young man carrying a little lowly suddenly walked out of the distorted space. The man was in his 20s and had a handsome appearance. He wore a luxurious silk robe that fluttered in the wind. Coupled with his long hair that fluttered in the wind, his resolute gaze, and his extraordinary and powerful aura, he looked otherworldly and domineering from afar. If these two chi powers appeared on other people at the same time, it would definitely give people a strange feeling. However, the young man was able to accommodate these two opposite chi powers perfectly. There was no feeling of disharmony at all. It was really strange. "Brother, what are we going to beat up here?" The little girl looked around and then looked at the young man and asked excitedly. Before the young man could respond, a black-furred wild boar that was scratching itself against a large tree 100 meters away suddenly stopped. Then, its eyes and mouth opened wide as it looked at the young man and the little lowly who had suddenly appeared in front of it with eyes full of fear. Then, it let out an extremely frightened shriek. "Yi Chun! Yi Chun is here!" The young man was Yi Chun, and the little girl was the flaming tiger Yilin, who had become an immortal beast and successfully transformed into a human form. After Yi Chun heard the deep and trembling scream of the black-haired wild boar, he didn't pay any attention to the black-haired wild boar at all. Instead, he looked directly at the cave, not far away. The cave was not deep, and it was very spacious. There was nothing in it, but Yi Chun stared at it. At this moment, several exclamations sounded one after another. "Pang, what the hell are you shouting for? Damn it! How could Yi Chun come here? Pang, you bastard, don't you know I'm sleeping? Come here, I'll beat you to death. Who dares to bully Pang? I won't let it go." Huff, huff. Yi Chun, who was looking at the cave, frowned when he heard this. Then he put down the little girl, the flaming tiger Yilin, in his arms. "Brother, I'll go and take care of them." The flaming tiger Yilin shouted excitedly as soon as she landed. When Yi Chun heard this, he nodded and said, "Go. Come back quickly." "Okay, brother." The flaming tiger Yilin's big eyes lit up with excitement when she heard this. Then she moved her feet and rushed directly in the direction of the sound. After a few breaths, there was a bang sound. The black-furred wild boar that first noticed Yi Chun's arrival had its head smashed by the flaming tiger Yilin's paw. Red and white were all over the ground in an instant. Yi Chun didn't look because he didn't need to. Yi Chun already knew the result. After all, Yinhu Yelin's cultivation level far surpassed the wild boars here. On top of that, Yinhu Yelin was an immortal beast. Even if all the wild boars here attacked Yinhu Yelin together, they would not be able to harm her in the slightest. The flaming tiger Yilin, who had killed a wild boar in an instant, couldn't help but let out a deafening roar. Roar! In the next second, the flaming tiger Yilin turned into a ray of red light and pounced into the distance. Not long after, the sounds of bodies exploding could be heard. The wild boar's cries, curses, and screams could be heard. Yinhu and Yilin went on a killing spree, killing to their heart's content. On the other hand, Yi Chun looked at the cave in front of him and frowned. There was a Goblin Clan's secret territory here. There should be special Goblin Clan players inside. But how could he force the entrance out of the Goblin Clan secret territory? Yi Chun had already made up his mind to clear out all the special Goblin Clan players in the eastern region in a limited amount of time. To do this, Yi Chun even brought along the flaming tiger Yilin. But when Yi Chun officially started his operation, he suddenly realized that he could sense the entrance of the Goblin clan's secret territory. However, he couldn't force the entrance out of the Goblin clan secret territory. This way, even the flaming tiger Yi Lin couldn't barge into the Goblin clan's secret territory and lure out the special Goblin clan players who were in seclusion. And if he couldn't lure the special Goblin clan players out of the secret territory, Yi Chen's plan to clear out the special Goblin clan players and plunder the treasures in the Goblin clan's secret territory would come to a halt. This wasn't the result that Yi Chen wanted to see. Previously, he was able to lure the toad out because it valued the life-devouring bugs too much. I wonder if letting the flaming tiger Yi Lin kill the wild boar clan here will trigger the special Goblin clan players in the Goblin clan's secret territory. Damn it. Although the Goblin clan's secret territory had restrictions on humans, it was still an extension of the Space Dao. No matter how mysterious or magical it was, it couldn't be separated from this. He couldn't pin his hopes on a possibility. At this thought, Yi Chen's mind moved. 10 enlightenment stones instantly appeared in front of Yi Chen. Looking at the 10 enlightenment stones floating in front of him, Yi Chen chose to use them without hesitation. The next second, the system's notification sounded. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chen for using enlightenment stones. Enlightenment mode activated. Duration, 10 minutes. The moment the system's notification ended, Yi Chen's primordial spirit moved. His powerful divine consciousness instantly surged toward the entrance of the Goblin clan's secret territory. The moment Yi Chen's divine consciousness touched the entrance of the Goblin clan's secret territory, an extremely strong repulsive force appeared instantly and blocked Yi Chen's divine consciousness, preventing Yi Chen's divine consciousness from entering. Yi Chen, who noticed this, narrowed his eyes. Then, he closed his eyes and entered a state of enlightenment. At the same time, Yi Chen's Space Dao, which he had mastered after refining the space origin source, began to circulate rapidly. Time passed slowly. A mysterious aura instantly appeared on Yi Chen's body. Then, the sound of Dao rang out around Yi Chen. Yi Chen, who had entered enlightenment mode to study the entrance of the Goblin clan's secret territory, frowned for a while before calming down. Then, Yi Chen's face revealed a look of surprise. Then, his face revealed an expression of excitement. Obviously, Yi Chen had gained a lot from studying the entrance of the Goblin clan's secret territory. Otherwise, he wouldn't have revealed such an expression. 5 minutes later, Yi Chen's eyes suddenly widened. A cold light flashed across them. So that was it. Thinking of this, Yi Chen looked directly at the cave. Then, he raised his right hand and pointed at the cave. Buzz! A sound was heard. A demonic red door of light suddenly appeared in the cave. The moment he saw the red door of light, Yi Chen's lips curled up. Now, he didn't have to worry. If he encountered the Goblin clan's secret territory again, even if he couldn't enter, he could force the entrance of the Goblin clan's secret territory out. Just as Yi Chen thought of this, a red light rushed over and stopped beside Yi Chen. When the red light disappeared, the flaming tiger Yi Lin, who had been ordered to clean up the wild boar clan, appeared with a bloody aura around her. Yi Chen glanced at the flaming tiger Yi Lin, nodded in satisfaction, and said, "Go to the Goblin clan's secret territory and lure out that idiot who is in seclusion." Chapter 617. When Yinhu and Yi Lin heard this, their eyes brightened. They quickly opened their mouths and she hurriedly asked, "Big brother, do you want me to kill that idiot?" It was obvious that flaming tiger Yi Lin's fighting spirit had been ignited. Otherwise, she wouldn't be so belligerent. Yi Chen couldn't help but smile when he heard flaming tiger Yi Lin's fighting spirit. Then, he patted flaming tiger Yi Lin's head and said, "There's a special player in the demon realm. Those inside are special players from the shifter race. They are at least in the lesser shifter realm. They are not people you can deal with right now. Don't force yourself. After this is over, cultivate well. There will be plenty of opportunities for you to fight in the future. Big brother, I'll be very careful, okay?" Flaming tiger Yi Lin's fighting spirit burned even brighter when she heard this. Then, she asked with excitement in her eyes. Yichen couldn't help but glare at Flaming Tiger Yulin when he heard this. Then, he said, "We need to finish this quickly. When I bring you to the Eldritch world in the future, there will be many battles there." "Okay, big brother." Flaming Tiger Yulin was taken aback for a moment before she hurriedly replied. Although Flaming Tiger Yulin was belligerent, she knew the severity of the situation. Naturally, she wouldn't act recklessly just because of some thoughts. She didn't want her master, Yi Chun, to be unhappy. She didn't want to delay Yi Chen's important matters. Yi Chen chuckled and nodded when he heard this. Then he said go. Flaming Tiger Yulin nodded and moved her feet. In the next second, Flaming Tiger Yulin charged into the cave. Within a breath's time, Yulin charged into the entrance of the demon race's secret realm without hesitation. After a cup of tea's time, Flaming Tiger Yulin charged out of the demon race's secret realm's entrance with a smug look on her face while carrying 2 piglets. Yichen was stunned when he saw this. Who would have thought that the special monster race player in this monster race secret realm was really a wild boar? Just as Yichen thought of this, a burly wild boar covered in black fur suddenly chased after them from the demon race secret realm. It then charged at the Flaming Tiger Yulin and let out a deafening roar. Roar! At this moment, a monstrous demonic aura and an extremely strong, killing intent erupted from the black-haired wild boar. However, the black-furred wild boar's killing intent immediately stopped. It was because it saw Yi Chun, a human who shouldn't have appeared in its territory. After being stunned for a moment, the 2 eyes of the black-furred wild boar that were already red instantly became even redder. The killing intent that had just stopped exploded even more violently at this moment. The next second, the black-furred wild boar charged at Yi Chun and roared angrily. "Human, tell that little bitch to return my child to me. Otherwise, you and that little bitch will both die." Obviously, the black-furred wild boar had instantly identified Yi Chun as the mastermind behind the kidnapping of the piglets. Otherwise, it wouldn't have roared at Yi Chun directly. When Yi Chun heard this, he glanced at the black-furred wild boar and curled his lips in disdain. The Flaming Tiger Yulin, who had come to Yi Chun's side with the 2 piglets in her hands, made a provocative gesture at the black-furred wild boar. Then, she looked at Yi Chun and said, "Brother, it's coming. It's coming out." Yi Chun chuckled and nodded. Then, he waved his right hand. The black and thick Godslayer instantly appeared in Yi Chun's hand. The black-furred wild boar, who had been glaring at Yi Chun, became even more furious when it saw this. It guessed that Yi Chun was the mastermind. It also guessed that Yi Chun was stronger than the Flaming Tiger Yulin. Otherwise, a human like Yi Chun wouldn't have the guts to come here and behave so atrociously. However, it didn't expect that Yi Chun would not only ignore it after it appeared, but he also had no intention of returning the piglets. Instead, he took out his weapon and was about to attack it. This was something that the black-furred wild boar couldn't tolerate no matter what. It was a small demon with a demon's heritage. How could a powerful small demon be provoked by a human who was only fit to be its food? In the next second, the black-furred wild boar's 2 scarlet eyes glared fiercely. Then it roared loudly. "Human, I want you dead." After the black-furred wild boar finished roaring, its 2 front hooves suddenly jumped up and stomped fiercely on the ground. Bang! A loud sound was heard. The black-furred wild boar's 2 hooves stomped fiercely on the ground. At the same time, 2 yellow dots of light suddenly appeared under the black-furred wild boar's 2 front hooves. Then, they turned into circular ripples and rapidly spread outwards. One circle after another. The cycle repeated as if it would never stop. When Yichen saw this, he smiled coldly and pointed his right hand to the ground. Buzz! A sound was heard. A yellow pillar of light suddenly shot out from Yichen's finger and flew directly into the ground. In that instant, a mysterious fluctuation appeared in the ground within half a kilometer of Yichen. Then, the originally loose soil suddenly started to compact and become denser. This process was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, the ground became as smooth as a mirror. At this moment, the ground suddenly began to tremble. Then, a series of explosions could be heard from underground. Bang, bang, bang. However, nothing happened. The black-furred wild boar couldn't help but be stunned when it saw this result. Then it shouted in shock. How is this possible? The black-furred wild boar had just released its demonic art, Earth Spike. In its opinion, Yi-chan should have been skewered to death by the Earth Spike. At the very least, it should have injured Yi-chan. Who would have thought that when it released its demonic art, Earth Spike, there would only be a sound? The Earth Spike that should have appeared did not appear at all. And this was the main reason why the black-furred wild boar was full of disbelief. When Yi-chan heard the black-furred wild boar's shocked cry, he curled his lips in disdain. So what if little crooked demon obtained the inheritance of the demon clan? In front of the connate spiritual treasure Earth Spirit Pearl, the power of the earth element was naturally suppressed. Thinking of this, Yi-chan looked directly at the black-furred wild boar and shouted, "Idiot, die!" When Yi-chan finished speaking, his right foot suddenly stomped on the ground. There was a loud bang, and the ground instantly cracked. At this moment, Yi-chan charged directly at the black-furred wild boar at an extremely fast speed. When the black-furred wild boar saw this, its face instantly became extremely ferocious. Then, it roared angrily at Yi-chan, "Die! Die! Die!" As soon as the black-furred wild boar finished speaking, its boar hair instantly stood on end. Then, it shot rapidly at Yi-chan. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The sound of something breaking through the air instantly rang out. Halfway through, Yi-chan, who was charging at the black-furred wild boar, saw the black-furred wild boar suddenly shoot out a sky full of steel-like boar hair. He smiled coldly and then slapped with his left hand. Boom! There was a loud bang. A huge palm formed by raging flames suddenly appeared and slapped towards the sky full of steel-like boar hair. In the next second, there was an extremely dense ZZ sound in an instant. In the blink of an eye, the sky full of steel-like boar hair was burned to ashes by the huge palm formed by raging flames. The whole process was extremely fast. When the black-furred wild boar realized that the boar hair it was so proud of had no effect, Yi-chan directly came in front of it. At this moment, a feeling of danger suddenly appeared in the black-furred wild boar's heart. However, just as the black-furred wild boar sensed the danger and prepared to dodge, Yi-chan's Godslayer in his right hand viciously stabbed at it. Chapter 618. Puchi, the God-slaying spear, effortlessly pierced into the black-furred wild boar's head. In the next second, the wild boar let out a shrill howl. Ouch! At the same time, the black-furred wild boar's eyes widened to their limits. It looked like they were about to pop out. At this moment, a loud bang sound was heard. The black-furred wild boar's huge head exploded instantly. At this moment, red blood, white brain matter, white wild boar skulls, and black and red boar skin splattered everywhere. At the same time, the Godslayer flashed, and the black-furred wild boar soul that had just left its body was instantly devoured. At this moment, the system notification sounded. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi-chan for killing a special player from the demon race. Due to his special status, player Yi-chan is rewarded with 300 innate attribute points. Once the system notification ended, Yi-chan's eyes lit up. Not bad, not bad. Another 300 innate attribute points came in his account. At this thought, Yi-chan looked at the corpse of the black-furred wild boar that couldn't be any more dead. Yi-chan then looked at the flaming tiger Yi-lin and said, "Go, take control of the demon race's secret territory and give me the authority to enter." "Yes, brother." When Yinhu and Yi-lin heard this, they hurriedly responded. Once they finished speaking, they casually crushed the two little piglets and hurried towards the entrance of the demon clan's secret territory in the cave. After the time it took to drink a cup of tea, Yinhu and Yi-lin ran back. They looked at Yi-chan and said, "Brother, it's all done." Hearing this, Yi-chan nodded. Then, he flew into the sky and flew toward the entrance of the monster race's secret realm. After Yi Chen passed through the red door of the demon race's secret territory, he arrived at the demon race's secret territory. After sizing up the demon race's secret territory, Yi Chen used his consciousness to cover the entire demon race's secret territory. In the next second, Yi Chen's eyes lit up. He guessed right. There were good things in the demon race's secret territory. At this thought, Yi Chen flew straight into the demon race's secret territory. Before long, Yi Chen arrived at a bamboo forest that was green all over. Looking at the bamboo forest that covered an area of 1 mile, Yi Chen couldn't help but smile. The green bamboo forest that was the demon race's bamboo forest. Green jade bamboo sprouted for 100 years, and it contained pure life qi, as well as a large amount of heaven and earth yuan qi. Eating it could strengthen one's body, bones, eyes, and improve one's cultivation level. Who would have thought that there would be jadeite bamboo here? Furthermore, it was a jadeite bamboo with a radius of 1 li. Once ye, green jade bamboo, bamboo, forest jade bamboo, 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 forest jade bamboo, bamboo, jade bamboo, 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 sword. In this way, the physical bodies of the Samsara City soldiers will be so strong that they would not be afraid of spiritual weapons. Yi, bamboo yi ling ling, wild lin lin. Yi, y. In the next second, the sound of cloth tearing could be heard in an incomparably concentrated manner. Countless space blades appeared out of thin air and cut into the ground around the bamboo forest. After the time it took to brew a pot of tea passed, Yi Chen sent out a strong spiritual sense with a thought. In the next second, the green jade bamboo forest disappeared. When Yi Chen saw the huge hole that appeared when the bamboo forest disappeared, he could not help but raise his eyebrows. After that, he used his spiritual sense to look at the jadeite bamboo forest that had already been transplanted into his small world. Yi Chen nodded his head in satisfaction after confirming that the green jade bamboo forest did not wither or die. He had gained a lot this time. With this, everyone in Samsara City, from the generals to the ordinary soldiers, would improve their cultivation levels rapidly. The only pity was that he still had to wait for some time. But there was no hurry, there was still time. At this thought, Yi Chen looked at the demon race secret territory of the black-haired wild boar again. After confirming that he had not missed anything, Yi Chen left the demon race secret territory. Outside the cave, as soon as Yi Chen appeared, Flaming Tiger Yi Lin rushed forward and looked at Yi Chen pitifully. "Brother, I want to eat bamboo shoots." Flaming Tiger Yi Lin had been ordered to lure the black-haired wild boar out of the secret territory. Naturally, she had seen the green jade bamboo forest in the secret territory. Otherwise, she would not have pestered Yi Chen for bamboo shoots the moment he left the secret territory. Yi Chen was stunned when he heard this. Then, he thought of Flaming Tiger Yi Lin's gluttonous past. This fellow was still as gluttonous as ever. Yi Chen shook his head helplessly. Then, with a wave of his right hand, 2 green bamboo shoots appeared in his hand. When Yinhu and Yi Lin saw this, their 2 big eyes instantly widened. At this moment, saliva involuntarily flowed out from the corners of their mouths. It was obvious that Flaming Tiger Yi Lin could not wait to eat the green bamboo shoots. Glancing at the expectant Flaming Tiger Yi Lin, Yi Chen sighed helplessly. Then he tossed the 2 bamboo shoots to Flaming Tiger Yi Lin. Flaming Tiger Yi Lin hurriedly reached out to catch them. Then she shouted at Yi Chen happily, "Brother, thank you so much." "Thank you, Big Brother. I knew that Big Brother treats me the best." Yi Chen could not help but smile when he heard this. Then, he said, "The green jade bamboo forest is very strong. The bamboo shoots of the jadeite bamboo are extremely effective. Moreover, they contain a huge amount of energy. Although your realm is not low now, you can't eat too much." Right now, before Yi Chen could finish his words, Yinhu and Yi Lin had already taken a few mouthfuls of crunch and directly finished the 2 emerald green bamboo shoots. The words that Yi Chen was about to say also came to an abrupt end. Glancing at Flaming Tiger Yi Lin, who still wanted more, Yi Chen glared at Flaming Tiger Yi Lin and said, you can't continue eating like this in the future. With your current realm, you can only eat one bamboo shoot a day. If you eat two, you won't be able to digest it at all. Yichen didn't mind Flaming Tiger Yulin eating the jadeite bamboo shoots, nor did he really mind Flaming Tiger Yulin's wasteful behavior. To be precise, Yichun didn't want Flaming Tiger Yulin to eat until she was full. As for the reason, it was very simple. Jadeite bamboo shoots weren't cabbages that could be eaten casually as long as one wasn't full. To be precise, the grade of the jadeite bamboo shoots belonged to the ranks of top-grade spirit herbs. The energy contained within was extremely huge. Otherwise, how could the black-furred wild boar advance to a small demon in such a short time? Of course, this wasn't important. What was important was that Flaming Tiger Yilin's current realm was still at the mortal evolution state. Although she was at the late stage, she still couldn't eat two jadeite bamboo shoots at the same time. Otherwise, Yichen wouldn't have specially told Flaming Tiger Yulin. Unfortunately, before Yichen finished speaking, Flaming Tiger Yulin had already started eating. She even finished it in a few King mouthfuls. When Flaming Tiger Yulin heard Yichen's somewhat reprimanding words, she couldn't help but smile mischievously. Then, she said very seriously, "Brother Yulin, I'll eat it." "Okay, brother." As soon as Flaming Tiger Yulin finished speaking, he saw her stomach expand like a balloon. Seeing this, Yichen secretly sighed. Then, with a thought, his divine sense instantly reached out to Flaming Tiger Yulin. After a few breaths, Yichen's eyes suddenly lit up. Then, he looked at Flaming Tiger Yulin and said, "Eat one more. Then, you'll directly advance to the Purple Mansion state." Chapter 619. When Yinhu and Yilin heard this, they were instantly stunned. Then, they looked at Yichun with incomparable excitement and said, "Okay, big brother." There was still a lot of undigested spiritual energy in Yinhu Yelin's body. Logically speaking, she shouldn't be able to continue consuming the jadeite bamboo shoots. If she did, Yinhu Yelin's stomach might explode. Yinhu Yilin naturally knew this. However, Yinhu Yilin trusted Yichun completely. Therefore, when Yinhu Yilin heard Yichun's words, not only did she not have any doubts, she was even somewhat impatient. After all, Flaming Tiger Yulin also desired power. Now that she had the chance to rapidly increase her cultivation state, she naturally wouldn't reject it. When Yichen heard this, he smiled and said, "You've already reached the mortal state. Your state has reached the tertiary stage of the mortal evolution state. The two bamboo shoots you just ate can help you reach the peak stage of the mortal evolution state. If you eat another one, it might be a bit dangerous, but with me watching over you, you can break through without worry." "Yes, I believe in brother." When Yinhu and Yilin heard this, they heavily nodded their heads and said. Yichun patted Flaming Tiger Yulin's head and waved his right hand. A green jade bamboo shoot and 10 Dao enlightenment stones instantly appeared in Yichen's hand. After glancing at the bamboo shoots and Dao enlightenment stones, Yichen handed them to Flaming Tiger Yulin and said, "First, use the spiritual qi to absorb the spirit qi first. This way, you can absorb the spirit qi faster. Leave the rest to me." When Yinhu and Yilin, who had received the jadeite bamboo shoots, heard this, they were slightly stunned. After that, they hurriedly nodded their heads and directly used 10 enlightenment stones. In the next second, a mysterious qi suddenly appeared on Flaming Tiger Yulin's body. Yinhu and Yilin, who had sensed the abnormality, were stunned. She never would have thought that the enlightenment stone that Yichun gave her would allow her cultivation to circulate on its own. Furthermore, it was even faster than before. What was even more exaggerated was that her understanding of the inheritance had suddenly become relaxed and timid. Some of the difficult problems with spells had also been solved. At this moment, Yinhu and Yilin even suspected that she could raise her original cultivation method by 1 or 2 grades. Even if it was the magic she possessed, the grade would also be raised. Moreover, it would be a perfect and flawless upgrade. Yichen glanced at Flaming Tiger Yulin, who was stunned by the Tao enlightenment stones, and smiled. You can eat now. Okay, big brother. After Yenhu and Yi Lin heard Yi Chen's words, they immediately recovered from their stupor. They hurriedly nodded and replied. After they finished speaking, they ate the jadeite bamboo shoot. After a few breaths, Flaming Tiger Yi Lin's stomach, which had just swelled up, started to expand again. When Yi Chun saw this, his primordial spirit moved. An enormous divine sense appeared and rushed toward Flaming Tiger Yi Lin. In the next second, the violent spirit energy in Flaming Tiger Yi Lin's body was controlled by Yi Chen's divine sense. When Flaming Tiger Yi Lin sensed this, her face lit up. She quickly closed her eyes and entered a state of cultivation. Flaming Tiger Yi Lin was stunned when she took the initiative to cultivate. Her cultivation speed could only be described as advancing by leaps and bounds. The spirit energy that would have taken her 3 to 5 days to completely digest was quickly absorbed and refined by her as she cultivated. There were no obstructions at all, nor were there any negative side effects. 3 minutes later, Flaming Tiger Yi Lin suddenly opened her eyes. She looked at Yi Chun and said, "Big brother, it's done." Okay. Yi Chun chuckled and nodded, then withdrew his divine sense. At this moment, the enormous spirit energy, which had been firmly controlled by Yi Chen's divine sense, started to wreak havoc in Flaming Tiger Yi Lin's body again. The Flaming Tiger Yi Lin's stomach, which had just returned to normal, swelled up again. Flaming Tiger Yi Lin did not show any signs of discomfort or pain because her stomach had swelled up again. Instead, she was unusually excited. In the next second, Flaming Tiger Yi Lin suddenly let out an earth-shattering roar. Roar! With that, Yi Lin disappeared and was replaced by a huge, brightly colored tiger with red fur all over its body. Yi Chen looked at the Flaming Tiger Yi Lin, who had returned to her original form, and used his divine sense to check the situation in Flaming Tiger Yi Lin's body. In the next second, Yi Chen nodded in satisfaction. Not bad, not bad. With the help of the Enlightenment Stone, breaking through to the next realm was that simple. Just as Yi Chun thought of this, Flaming Tiger Yi Lin's aura suddenly started to surge. This was the sign of an advancement. Once it was over, Flaming Tiger Yi Lin would officially advance to the Purple Mansion realm. Time passed by slowly. 5 minutes later, the momentum that Yenhu and Yi Lin had been maintaining instantly reached its peak. Seeing this, Yi Chen's eyes widened. The advancement was a success. Just as Yi Chun thought of this, the 15-meter-tall Flaming Tiger Yi Lin instantly grew. In the span of a few breaths, it grew from 15 meters to 50 meters. At the same time, Flaming Tiger Yi Lin's huge tiger head faced the sky and let out an earth-shattering roar. Roar! The tiger's roar was filled with joy, excitement, and deep gratitude. In the next second, the 50-meter-long Flaming Tiger Yi Lin's body suddenly started to shrink. After a few breaths, Flaming Tiger Yi Lin transformed back into her human form. Then, she happily rushed toward Yi Chun and hugged Yi Chen's waist. "Thank you, big brother." When Yi Chun heard the Flaming Tiger Yi Lin's grateful words, he couldn't help but smile. Then, he patted the Flaming Tiger Yi Lin's little head and said, "There's no need to be so polite. You protected me for so long. If we're talking about gratitude, I should be the one thanking you." The Flaming Tiger Yi Lin was responsible for Yi Chen's safety in the real world. Naturally, Yi Chun couldn't be stingy with the Flaming Tiger Yi Lin. If there was a treasure that could help the Flaming Tiger Yi Lin improve, Yi Chun wouldn't hesitate to give it to the Flaming Tiger Yi Lin. There was no doubt about this. Moreover, Yi Chun had always done this. Otherwise, how could Yi Chun let the Flaming Tiger Yi Lin eat spirit stones and elixirs as she pleased? He even gave her an immortal beast advancement scroll so that she could evolve into an immortal beast. In the future, I will continue to protect Big Brother. No one will be able to hurt Big Brother. When the Flaming Tiger Yi Lin heard Yi Chen's affirmation of her past, her heart instantly warmed. Then, she spoke in an extremely affectionate manner. When Yi Chen heard this, he chuckled and nodded. Then he said, I believe you. Big brother believes in you. When the flaming tiger Yilin heard this, she immediately smiled and nodded heavily. Yi Chun patted the flaming tiger Yilin's little head and said, we should go to the next location. There's not enough time. I have to return to that world as soon as possible. After Yi Chun finished speaking, he hugged the flaming tiger Yilin and moved his mind. In the next second, the space in front of Yi Chun suddenly distorted. After glancing at the distorted space, Yi Chun stepped into it and disappeared. Chapter 620. 6,300 miles to the east of Samsara City, in a boundless forest, the space was suddenly distorted. In the next second, Yi Chun took a step forward with the flaming tiger Yilin and appeared here. Yi Chun glanced at a giant tree with a diameter of 100 meters and blocked out the sun. He raised his right hand and pointed at the giant tree. With a buzzing sound, the red light gate that belonged to the monster clan's secret realm appeared. Yi Chun glanced at the red light gate and said, lure it out. Go and lure it out. Okay, big brother, the flaming tiger Yilin said, then rushed toward the red light gate and broke into the monster clan's secret realm. Not long after, the flaming tiger Yilin returned. Yi Chun waved his right hand and the black and thick Godslayer appeared. At this moment, a furious roar could be heard. Roar! In the next second, a giant hedgehog suddenly rushed out of the monster clan's secret realm. Seeing this, Yi Chun loosened his grip on the Godslayer and threw it with all his might. With a whoosh, the black and thick Godslayer turned into a black light and disappeared in a flash. In the next second, there was a puff sound. The Godslayer instantly pierced through the head of the giant hedgehog. Before the giant hedgehog could do anything, it died in an instant and its soul was devoured by the Godslayer. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chun for killing a special Monster Clan player. Due to his special identity, player Yi Chun is rewarded with 300 innate attribute points. After the system's notification, Yi Chun nodded in satisfaction. The flaming tiger Yilin rushed into the Monster Clan's secret realm again, without waiting for Yi Chun's instructions. After a few breaths, the flaming tiger Yilin appeared again and said to Yi Chun, okay, big brother. Hearing this, Yi Chun smiled and flew straight into the monster race's secret realm. Before long, Yi Chun left the monster race's secret realm with the 2 high-grade spirit veins. Then, he teleported to another place with the flaming tiger Yilin. As Yi Chun teleported again and killed more and more special Yao players, the number of treasures, spirit springs, and spirit veins he harvested increased rapidly. Every time he cleared the demon race's secret realm, it only took him a minute. If someone knew what Yi Chun was doing, they would definitely stare with their eyes wide open and cry out in surprise. What a freak! Of course, this was just an assumption. The places where Yi Chun appeared were all very far away from the safe cities. For the humans who couldn't even guarantee their own safety, unless they were looking for trouble, no one would venture more than 10 miles away from the safe city. Of course, the safe city only had a few more days of safety left. It must be known that the protective shield protecting the city was about to disappear. In at most 2 days in the real world, the protective shield would completely disappear. At that time, the entire world would officially enter a new chapter of death. Time passed slowly. 3 hours later, after Yi Chun stabbed a gorilla that could be said to be King Kong in movies, he took the 5 high-grade spirit veins in the monster race's secret realm and went straight to the sea. This was because all the special Yao players on the eastern continent had been cleared by Yi Chun. Only a dragon was left. In fact, this dragon couldn't be considered a Yao. Just like how mythical beasts, immortal beasts, and spiritual beasts were classified from the Yao race, the dragon race was also a special existence. Sea by the sea, the space suddenly distorted. In the next second, Yi Chun walked out of the distorted space with the flaming tiger Yilin. When Yi Chun saw the East Sea after the meteor fell, he couldn't help but be stunned. The East Sea had changed a lot because of the expansion of the Earth. In the sky, countless seagulls were flying in flocks. On the surface of the sea, there were countless lush islands. This was a situation that didn't exist at all before the meteor fell. As for the seawater, because of the wind and the tidal force, waves rose one after another. Compared to before the meteor fell, the seawater was much more ferocious. Occasionally, countless large fish of unknown species could be seen jumping out of the sea. They seemed to be playing, but also seemed to be catching low-flying seagulls. The scene in front of him had no traces of humans. It was purely natural. It almost gave Yi Chan the illusion that this place was very safe. However, Yi Chan knew that the sea was actually more dangerous than the land. The number of aquatic yao beasts here was much more than that of the land. If it weren't for the natural restrictions, the ones who dominated the land would definitely be the aquatic yao beasts of the sea and not those wild beasts or birds. After coming back to his senses, Yi Chen's primordial spirit moved. His huge consciousness instantly surged out and covered a radius of 200,000 miles. After a few breaths, Yi Chen's eyes suddenly opened. There was a flash of light in them. There was indeed a dragon. However, this dragon seemed to be going to die. Thinking of this, Yi Chen looked at Flaming Tiger Yulin and said, "You stay here for a while. I'll go down to the sea and have a look. When I come back, we'll go back to Samsara City." "Okay, brother." Flaming Tiger Yulin hesitated for a moment and then nodded. In fact, Flaming Tiger Yulin wanted to go down to the sea with Yi Chen. However, Flaming Tiger Yulin knew that if she went down to the sea, not only would she not be able to help Yi Chen, but she might also affect Yi Chen. Otherwise, she would definitely beg Yi Chen to go down to the sea with her. Yi Chen naturally saw through Flaming Tiger Yulin's thoughts. However, now was not the time to play. After patting Flaming Tiger Yulin's little head, Yi Chen flew straight up and plunged into the sea. Unlike ordinary people, Yi Chen did not make any splash when he plunged into the sea. It was as if he had directly merged with the sea and did not cause any ripples. Below sea level, in the depths of the sea, Yi Chen did not know how deep the sea was. Yi Chen, who was covered by the water shield, plunged straight to the bottom of the sea. His speed was comparable to Yi Chen's when he was flying in the sky. The sea was blue. However, as Yi Chen continued to dive, everything around him gradually fell into darkness. Even so, Yi Chen did not panic at all. There was no need for him to do so. Darkness was not an obstacle for Yi Chen at all. This was because Yi Chen could completely achieve night vision. Moreover, Yi Chen still had his primordial spirit and spiritual consciousness. There was no pressure at all if he wanted to see everything around him clearly. As Yi Chen continued to dive, more and more aquatic creatures were seen by Yi Chen. Yi Chen admired them while flying toward the Dragon Palace that his spiritual consciousness had explored. However, things did not go as one wished. Yi Chen did not want to complicate matters. However, some ferocious fish and aquatic creatures just had to provoke Yi Chen. After discovering this, Yi Chen started killing them directly. The method was very simple. He just used the power of thunder. It was simple, violent, and very effective. Yi Chen's method also caused all the fish within a 1-mile radius of Yi Chen to be electrocuted to death or cooked. There was no exception. As long as they came within a 1-mile radius of Yi Chen, they would be turned upside down. Time passed bit by bit. 10 minutes later, light appeared in front of Yi Chen's eyes. That's right, it was light. This place was at least 13,000 meters below sea level. Under normal circumstances, such a place should be completely dark. However, there was light here. From a distance, the place where the light was emitting covered a large area. It was obvious that something was amiss. If anyone else saw this place, they would definitely exclaim that there was a treasure. However, Yi Chen naturally would not exclaim. This was because Yi Chen had already used his spiritual consciousness to explore this place clearly. Yi Chen could not help but raise his eyebrows when he glanced at the sea floor that was illuminated by a large light source not far away. It was said that the East Sea Dragon Palace was full of treasures. He did not know if the Dragon Palace in the real world was the legendary Dragon Palace or if it was specially built by this dragon. Regardless of which it was, at least the dragon egg could not escape. Chapter 621. Thinking of this, Yichen could not help but smile. Then he flew in the direction of a light source at the bottom of the sea. After a few breaths, an enormous crystal palace with a radius of 10 kilometers and a top covered by a layer of light appeared in front of Yichen. Grand and majestic, that was the first impression Yichen had of the crystal palace in front of him. And Yichen's second impression was that he had robbed it. Damn it, where did this dragon get so many immortal level materials? This was the real world. How could there be immortal level materials here? This was not scientific. Yichen could not be blamed for thinking this way. Yichen originally thought that the dragon palace here was a fake dragon palace built by the dragon deliberately to collect crystals. In Yichen's previous life, immortal level materials officially appeared in the real world 1 year after the meteor fell. Yichen's speculation that the dragon palace here might be the legendary dragon palace was denied after Yichen saw the dragon palace with his own eyes. The legendary dragon palace could not be so simple. At least, the legendary dragon palace would not allow Yichen to find it so easily. Yichen was only a few hundred meters away from the dragon palace. If the dragon palace here was the legendary dragon palace, Yichen would be discovered in advance and attacked, even if he was a few thousand meters away, let alone a few hundred meters. After all, the buildings in the legends were all protected by arrays and would not allow outsiders to get close to them. Of course, this was not important. The important thing was that the dragon palace in front of Yichen was built with immortal level materials, white jade crystals. Although Yichen did not have this thing in his previous life, he had seen a city gate built with white jade crystals in a big human forces immortal city. Yichen vaguely remembered that in his previous life, 3 Earth God realm human cultivators had broken into the immortal city with a white jade crystal gate. They were so arrogant that they went on a rampage. They even flirted with the concubine of the leader of the big forces. After that, a great war broke out. In the end, the 3 Earth immortals were defeated and prepared to flee. However, due to the restrictions of the sky ceiling array, they could not fly away. They could only force their way through the white jade crystal city gates. Unfortunately, no matter how they attacked the city gate, they were unable to damage it in the slightest. After that, the 3 Earth immortals were captured, skinned alive, and used as sky lanterns for an entire year. In that year, the 3 earthly immortals became a unique sight in the Mighty Force Immortal City. It was also because of the 3 Earth immortals that the players realized the importance of white jade crystals. It was sturdy, unafraid of immortal techniques and immortal artifacts. It was ridiculously hard. It could be said that the white jade crystal, which could be used as a building material, was one of the best immortal materials. The Dragon Palace, which covered an area of 10 square kilometers, was made entirely out of white jade crystals. This was also the fundamental reason why Yichen had the idea of robbing the Dragon Palace after he recognized the construction materials in front of him. One should know that Yichen's reincarnation city had evolved into the reincarnation immortal city. It was a huge devourer of immortal materials. If there were not enough immortal materials, the reincarnation immortal city would not be able to meet the needs of Yichen for his ascension. To be precise, Yichen wanted to bring all the people of the Great Han Empire who had submitted to Yichen to ascend to the Eldritch Land. To achieve this, there had to be a huge amount of immortal materials for the reincarnation immortal city to devour. Looking at the huge dragon palace in front of him, Yichen's eyes shone brighter and brighter. Damn it, I'll rob it. At the thought of this, Yichen rushed straight to the dragon palace. In the blink of an eye, he came into contact with the light shield outside the dragon palace and entered it. The light shield was not a defensive spell, nor was it a protective array. Its purpose was to isolate the seawater. Yichen was sure of this the moment he saw the light shield. Otherwise, Yichen would not have rushed in so recklessly. As soon as Yichen entered the dragon palace, he was stunned. He then looked at the 1-meter-thick layer of fog on the ground. In the next second, Yichen's eyes opened wide. Damn it! Spiritual qi turned into fog. Just as Yichen had expected, The 1-meter thick layer of mist in the Dragon Palace was filled with spiritual chi in the form of mist. Damn it, there were either hundreds of upper-grade spiritual meridians or a few supreme-grade spiritual meridians in the Dragon Palace. Otherwise, such a situation would not occur. At the thought of this, Yi Chen's mind moved and his consciousness covered the entire Dragon Palace. Who would have thought that when Yi Chen began to explore, a long sigh suddenly came. No need to explore. This Dragon Palace will belong to you in the future. Yi Chen was slightly stunned when he heard this. He then looked directly at the main hall in the center of the Dragon Palace. Was this dragon going to entrust him, compromise, or conspiracy? It was no wonder that Yi Chen thought this way. Before Yi Chen entered the sea, his consciousness had detected the female dragon in the Dragon Palace. However, the female dragon was surrounded by the aura of death. No matter how he looked at it, it seemed that she was about to die. Now, the female dragon had not seen Yi Chen yet, but she directly told Yi Chen that the Dragon Palace would belong to him in the future. Obviously, she had sensed Yi Chen's arrival and perceived Yi Chen's strength. Otherwise, she would not have said so. One had to know that the Dragon Clan was greedy by nature. Unless their lives were threatened, they would not hand over their treasures. In addition, there were a few dragon eggs not far from the female dragon. Yi Chen's speculation followed. No matter what the reason was, the Dragon Palace would belong to Yi. At the thought of this, Yi Chen's eyes lit up. He waved his right hand, and the dark and thick Godslayer appeared instantly. In the next second, Yi Chen's consciousness covered the Dragon Palace. He did not hesitate to explore the Dragon Palace 3 times. After confirming that there were no traps like arrays, Yi Chen flew to the main hall in the center of the Dragon Palace. The female dragon's words did not have any killing intent. This was true, but Yi Chen would not choose to believe her just because of a sentence. This was because powerhouses had more tricks up their sleeves than ordinary people. Furthermore, it was impossible to guard against them. As for the female dragon here, although she was on the verge of death, the aura she emitted faintly revealed the might of a greater demon. Naturally, Yi Chen would not blindly believe the words of a female dragon that he had never seen before and who possessed the cultivation of a greater demon. Even if she was a female dragon about to die, Yi Chen would not let his guard down. This was also a life-saving skill that Yi Chen had learned in his previous life. No matter when facing anyone, regardless of whether the other party was strong or weak, he had to treat them seriously and not let his guard down. Otherwise, the outcome would be very tragic. After a few breaths, Yi Chen arrived in front of a dazzling and exquisitely decorated main hall. At the same time, a female dragon that was lying on the ground and emitting black gas appeared in front of Yi Chen. The female dragon in the main hall glanced at Yi Chen and said weakly, "Let's make a deal." Yi Chen, who was sizing up the female dragon, saw the black, vein-like lines in the female dragon's eyes when she opened her eyes. A Dragon Clan member that had been parasitized by puppet worms. Chapter 622. The puppet worm was an extremely special type of worm among the Zerg race. It specialized in parasitizing the brains of living creatures and then nibbling away at their brains to control their bodies. The black lines that occupied almost half of the eyes of the mother dragon in front of Yi Chen were the tentacles that the puppet worm grew after parasitizing the mother dragon and causing its death. To be more precise, the puppet worm used the tentacles to occupy the mother dragon's eyes and then used them to observe the outside world. The puppet worm in the mother dragon's head should be the puppet worm queen. After Yi Chen's rebirth, he understood the puppet worm better than any other player. In Yi Chen's previous life, Yi Chen was almost parasitized by a puppet worm. If not for Yi Chen decisively cutting off half a kilogram of flesh from his leg, Yi Chen probably wouldn't even have the chance to be reborn. Of course, this wasn't important. What was important was that Yi Chen was very clear that the source of the puppet worm's havoc in the real world was the puppet worm queen. In Yi Chen's previous life, when the puppet worms were wreaking havoc, no matter if it was the human race, the demon race, or the witch race, the 3 races were all in danger. It couldn't be helped. The puppet worm's parasitic methods were too cruel. Just touching the eggs of the puppet worms would cause them to be parasitized. Not to mention eating spiritual medicine, drinking water, and even breathing air. To be more precise, the puppet worm could place its eggs in spiritual herbs, water, or even the air. The eggs of the puppet worm could be like catkins, fluttering in the wind and not being seen at all. It was also because of the puppet worms that all players would release their divine senses when they went out and walked carefully, afraid that they would accidentally touch the eggs of the puppet worms. It wasn't until the players found a way to eliminate the puppet worms in the Eldritch world that the puppet worms that wreaked havoc in the real world were completely wiped out. And that method was to directly destroy the puppet insect's mother insect. In that case, all the offspring of the puppet worm queen would automatically die. As for the method of discovering the puppet insect queen, it depended on the strength of the living being that was being parasitized. To be more precise, in the puppet insect clan, only the puppet insect queen's host had the highest cultivation realm, and the descendants of the puppet insect queen would never be higher than the puppet insect queen's host. As for the reason, the players generally believed that it was the Queen Zerg's special restriction to prevent its offspring from surpassing it. The specific reason was not important. What was important was that killing the insect queen was equivalent to killing off the insect queen's offspring. As for the female dragon in front of Yi-chan, even though she was dead, her body exuded the aura of a great fae. Clearly, this female dragon was a great fae when she was alive. And at this level, at this moment in the real world, he was already a top powerhouse. Therefore, the parasite that parasitized the mother dragon could only be the mother insect of the puppet worm, not the offspring of the mother insect. Who would have thought that the source of the puppet worms in the real world would appear here, and that I would encounter it? At the thought of this, Yi-chan glanced at the extremely weak female dragon, lifted his left hand, and pointed at the female dragon. Boom! The sound of thunder shook the entire dragon palace. At the same time, a red bolt of lightning appeared out of thin air and struck the female dragon. Human, I've already prepared to give you the dragon palace. Why are you still attacking me? After the female dragon realized that she was struck by lightning, she was instantly enraged and roared at Yi-chan. When Yi-chan heard this, he curled his lips in disdain. At this moment, a blood-colored lotus formed by flames and lightning suddenly appeared and rapidly expanded. In the blink of an eye, it enveloped the female dragon's body. At the same time, the crackling sound of something burning could be heard. When the female dragon saw this, she was shocked. She hurriedly closed her eyes and struggled. However, no matter how much she struggled, she could not move an inch. Yi-chan glanced at the female dragon that did not howl in pain despite being burned by the blood-colored lotus formed by the red karmic fire lightning. Then he smiled coldly. You don't even know how to pretend. A worm is a worm. Even if you have the memories of the female dragon, what's the use? After the puppet worm parasitized its host, it would devour the host's brain and obtain the host's memories. However, due to the limitations of the puppet worm's body, even if it obtained the host's memories, it would not have the host's intelligence. This was the reason why the puppet worm did not howl in pain when it saw the female dragon's body being burned by the red karmic fire lightning. As for why Yi-chan didn't talk to the mother dragon, or rather, the puppet worm, and immediately attacked, it was because Yi-chan was very clear that the puppet worm in the mother dragon's head was the mother puppet worm. If the puppet worm queen was allowed to live, Yi-chan's subordinates who were about to be transferred to the real world to guard the Samsara city would definitely encounter the puppet worm. Once this happened, Yi-chan would suffer a great loss. Yi-chan did not want to see this happen. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. The sound of the red lotus karmic fire and the red lightning burning the female dragon's body became louder and louder, and the puppet worm queen became more and more flustered. The fire had not burned it yet, but it was in the fire and could not escape. It could not help but feel anxious. However, it could not activate the female dragon's body at all, because the female dragon had destroyed all the nerves in its body before it died. Otherwise, it would not have been unable to control the female dragon's body. In fact, If the female dragon had not been unable to explode its dragon pearl after noticing the existence of the puppet worm, it would have exploded itself without hesitation. Realizing that it could not escape, the puppet worm queen suddenly looked at Yi-chun. Even if the red lotus karmic fire burned the dragon's eye and the tentacles in the dragon's eye, the puppet worm queen still did so. In the next second, the puppet worm queen screamed at Yi-chun. "Human, quickly withdraw the spell. Otherwise, you will be the mortal enemy of my insect race." Mortal enemy? What a joke. Do you really think that I don't know what a puppet worm is? If the monster race is the mortal enemy of the human race, then the puppet worm is the mortal enemy of the human race. Wait a minute. This thing seemed to have said something about the insect race. Damn it. Is it the insect race a name given by humans? This puppet worm queen actually calls itself the insect race. When Yi-chun thought of this, he couldn't help but be stunned. Just at this moment, the mother dragon's rotten body instantly swelled up with countless bulges and then exploded with bang, bang, bang. In the next second, countless fist-sized translucent insects suddenly splashed out of the big bulges. However, as soon as these translucent insects appeared, they were burned by the red lotus karmic fire, leaving nothing behind. At this moment, the system notification sounded. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi-chun for killing the insect race, Puppet Worm Queen. Special reward to player Yi-chun. Innate merit points x100. After the series of system notifications ended, Yi-chun's eyes widened. Damn it! Insect race, innate merit points. Damn it, what's going on? Chapter 623. Since Yi-chun was reborn, he knew a lot of things and secrets. However, the sudden notification from his system left Yi-chun dumbfounded. As for the reason, it was simple. Yi-chun knew about the connate merit and its benefits. However, Yi-chun had never heard of the insectoids. What confused Yi-chun even more was that he could obtain connate merit by killing the insectoids. This was like a pie falling from the sky. One had to know that connate merit was something that could stabilize one's luck. Of course, the benefits of connate merit were not only to stabilize one's luck. It could also increase one's comprehension, cultivation speed, and fortune. If one had enough connate merit, no evil could even get close to them. It could be said that the more connate merit one had, the more benefits one would get. For example, Nuwa in the legends became a saint through connate merit. Although Yi-chun would not choose to become a saint through connate merit, which was the weakest path to becoming a saint, this did not affect Yi-chun's understanding of connate merit. To be precise, connate merit was not that easy to obtain. However, right now, right before Yi-chun's eyes, there was an innate merit for killing the bug race. How could Yi-chun not be dumbfounded? Just as Yi-chun was in a daze, the queen puppet bug in the head of the mother dragon suddenly let out a shrill shriek. Screech! The shriek was so sharp that it made Yi-chun's eardrums buzz. At this moment, Yi-chun snapped out of his daze. At this moment, the system notification sounded again. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi-chun for being the first to kill the insectoid queen puppet bug. Player Yi-chun is rewarded with connate merit x 100000. As soon as the system notification ended, Yi-chun's eyes widened. Holy sh**t, 100,000 connate merit. In Yi-chun's previous life, there was a saying among the players in the Void World. If one had less than 10,000 connate merit, they would be invincible. The meaning was not complicated. It meant that no matter who it was, as long as one had 10,000 connate merit, they would be invincible. Otherwise, everything would go wrong. Even drinking water would be enough to stuff one's teeth. Of course, things were not absolute. If the enemy was someone who also possessed innate merit, then it would be a different story. However, it was undeniable that as long as a person did not have innate merit, attacking someone with innate merit would be extremely unlucky. Even if it was just a nap, one could go berserk. Wait a minute. The previous series of system prompts seemed to be from the Puppet Insect Queen, but this one just now, Puppet Bug Queen, Could it be that the puppet insects that wreaked havoc in the world in his previous life all came from the puppet insect queen in the head of the female dragon? Thinking of this, Yi Chen's eyes suddenly widened. Damn, that's definitely the case. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many system notifications, and they're all from the puppet bug queen. Moreover, there's even a notification from the puppet bug queen. Thinking of this, Yi Chen's face darkened and he hurriedly checked his body. After confirming that there were no abnormalities, Yi Chen breathed a sigh of relief. The reason why the puppet insects were terrifying was because people did not understand them. If they understood, it would naturally not be easy to be hit. However, it was undeniable that the puppet insects had many parasitic methods. Most of the time, it was impossible to guard against them. Otherwise, Yi Chen would not have directly attacked after noticing the abnormality of the female dragon. Moreover, he used his most powerful method, the red karmic fire thunder. Fortunately, he discovered it in time and attacked directly. Otherwise, he really did not know what the puppet bug queen's ability was. If he was accidentally hit, it would be too late to cry. Thinking of this, Yi Chen's right hand patted the corpse of the female dragon, which had only dragon scales and dragon bones left. Boom! A loud sound was heard. A scorching sea of fire instantly appeared on the remaining corpse of the female dragon, and then it burned violently. The scorching sea of fire burned for a full 3 minutes. After no abnormalities occurred, Yi Chen released his divine sense and carefully explored the main hall of the Dragon Palace. After a few breaths, Yi Chen's face could not help but sink. Damn it, this damn puppet insect queen actually still has. Thinking of this, Yi Chen did not hesitate to point at 4 of the 5 dragon eggs in the main hall. Boom, boom, boom. 4 thunderous sounds shook the entire Dragon Palace. Then, 4 red karmic fire thunder instantly struck the 4 dragon eggs, which were the size of a bathtub, in the main hall. At the same time, the red lotus karmic fire and the red lightning formed a blood-colored lotus flower again, and then it enveloped the 4 dragon eggs that Yi Chen's divine sense had locked onto. In the next second, the red lotus karmic fire and the red lightning directly burned the 4 dragon eggs. In the blink of an eye, the 4 dragon eggs, which were originally motionless, suddenly began to tremble violently. Looking at the 4 dragon eggs that were shaking more and more violently, Yi Chen smiled coldly. If it was an ordinary puppet bug parasitic in the dragon eggs, it might be possible to ignore it. After all, their bodies were too small. However, the puppet bug queen's body was as big as a wash basin. It was difficult not to notice it, just as Yi Chen thought of this, for explosive sounds suddenly rang out. Boom, boom, boom. The 4 dragon eggs that were still trembling violently suddenly burst open, and then the dragon whelps and the dragon eggs were revealed. In the next second, a shrill and tender scream suddenly rang out. Roar, however, the scream stopped abruptly midway. The dragon whelps and the dragon eggs were obviously not dead for a long time. The body of the female dragon was strong, but under the double burning of the red lotus karmic fire and the red lightning, it did not even last a breath's time before it was burned to ashes. The puppet bug queen that was parasitic in the dragon eggs, or rather in the dragon whelps, was also burned to ashes at this moment. At this moment, the system's prompt sounded again. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chen for killing the puppet bug queen. Player Yi Chen is specially rewarded with innate merit points x 100,000. The system's prompt sounded 4 times in a row, and Yi Chen directly increased by 400,000 innate merit points. At this moment, a faint golden halo suddenly appeared behind Yi Chen's head, which was originally empty, and then it disappeared into the void. At the same time, an indescribable sense of comfort appeared directly in Yi Chen's body and then rushed directly to his primordial spirit. At this moment, Yi Chen suddenly found that the 9 revolutions mysterious art and the Divine Night thunder controlling technique that were running automatically suddenly doubled in speed. With this change, the speed at which Yi Chen automatically absorbed the spiritual chi of heaven and earth also doubled. Noticing this change, Yi Chen was slightly stunned and couldn't help but look at the attribute panel. When Yi-chan saw the value of innate merit points that suddenly appeared in the attribute panel, his eyes couldn't help but light up. 1 million innate merit points. With 1 million innate merit points, when I ascend the throne, the destiny of the Empire will definitely be as stable as Mount Tai. Because of this, if I add the 9 tripod guardians, thinking of this, Yi-chen's eyes suddenly shone brightly. This is not the only benefit of 1 million innate merit points. My power of understanding, luck, and cultivation speed will also increase, although what I can feel now is only my power of understanding and cultivation speed. My luck will also increase, and the increase will be huge in this way. It will be difficult for everything to go smoothly and turn misfortune into blessings in the future. Thinking of this, Yi-chen couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Right. Innate merit points seem to be able to convert evil spirits. In this way, I can also learn from the Western bald donkeys and convert vengeful spirits to gain merit points. If I have enough merit points, I can also get a golden body of merit to play with. Chapter 624. At this thought, Yi-chan couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. He then looked at the only remaining dragon egg in the hall. In the next second, Yi-chan moved his feet and came to the side of the only remaining dragon egg in the hall. Looking at the bathtub-sized dragon egg, Yi-chan said, "It's fate that we met. If you're willing to accept me as your master, then accept it. If you're unwilling..." When Yi-chan said this, he paused for a moment. Then, he said fiercely, "If you're unwilling, then we'll roast it." After Yi-chan finished speaking, he raised his right hand and forced out a drop of essence blood, which he dripped onto the dragon egg. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. After a full 10 seconds, Yi-chan's essence blood still hadn't been absorbed by the dragon egg. Seeing this, Yi-chan raised his right hand and an extremely hot fireball instantly appeared. At this moment, the temperature in the hall rose rapidly. In the blink of an eye, the hall of the Dragon Palace was filled with rolling heat waves. At this moment, the dragon egg that hadn't reacted until now suddenly flashed with a red light. Then, the drop of essence blood that Yi-chan forced out was directly absorbed by the dragon egg. At the same time, there was a faint connection between Yi-chan and the dragon egg. After sensing the connection between him and the dragon egg, Yi-chan couldn't help but smile. Then, he pulled with his right hand. In the next second, the only remaining dragon egg in the hall instantly disappeared. Glancing at the dragon egg that had been kept in the small world, Yi-chan nodded in satisfaction. Fortunately, this was the real world. If this was the primeval age, how could the dragon race be so easily subdued? The dragon race was extremely arrogant. Of course, they were also very rude and unreasonable, especially the dragon race in the primeval age. Let alone subduing them, they would directly fight if they said something unpleasant. This time, Yi-chan was able to subdue a member of the dragon race in the real world. Although it was an unborn baby dragon, its identity and bloodline of the dragon race were real. To Yi-chan, this was undoubtedly a huge surprise. As for the reason, it was actually not complicated. Yi-chan wanted to rob the dragon race in the untainted world. To be precise, he wanted to rob the dragon race's treasury in the untainted world. Inside were the treasures that the dragon clan had collected over tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of years. The richness of the treasures was simply shocking and shocking. Not to mention Yi-chan, even the mighty figures and sages in the untainted world wanted to obtain the treasures in the dragon clan's treasury. In order to enter the dragon clan's treasury, the dragon clan's royal family had to personally open the treasury. However, that was the problem. How could the royal dragon family open the dragon treasury for an outsider? To force the royal dragon family to open the dragon treasury, the only way was to subdue the royal dragon family. However, the royal family of the dragon clan could not be subdued. Otherwise, in Yi-chan's previous life, the treasury of the dragon clan would have been opened long ago. After all, there were countless mighty figures and experts in the untainted world. There were still many existences that could force the royal dragon family of the dragon clan. And now, Yi Chen had come to the East Sea Dragon Palace and encountered an unharmed dragon egg. It would be strange if he did not subdue the young dragon in the dragon egg. Although the young dragon was not a royal dragon and did not have the bloodline of the dragon clan, Yi Chen had a way to raise the young dragon's bloodline to the level of the royal dragon. To be precise, Yi Chen knew the location of the ancestral dragon blood essence. As long as the young dragon devoured and refined the ancestral dragon blood essence, the young dragon's dragon clan bloodline would be even more royal than the royal dragon. In this way, Yi Chen could completely rely on the young dragon to directly enter the dragon clan's treasury and plunder it. It could be said that as long as Yi Chen's plan succeeded, not only would he obtain a subordinate with the ancestral dragon blood essence, but he would also obtain all the treasures in the entire dragon clan's treasury. And this was the fundamental reason why Yi Chen had forced the young dragon in the dragon egg to recognize him as its master. And in the end, Yi Chen succeeded. In fact, this was also because the young dragon in the dragon egg did not have a complete inheritance of the dragon clan. Otherwise, no matter how much Yi Chen threatened the young dragon, he would not have succeeded in making it recognize him as its master. Of course, this was not important. What was important was that Yi Chen had indeed subdued the young dragon. Once they obtained the entire dragon clan's treasury, the army of Samsara City would definitely rise strongly and completely make a name for themselves in the untainted world. Thinking of this, Yi Chen opened his eyes abruptly. Then, with a move of his divine sense, his thoughts were immediately transmitted to the small world. You can use the top-grade spirit vein and top-grade spirit stones inside. In the future, I will prepare better things for you and let you become the strongest existence in the dragon clan. After Yi Chen transmitted his thoughts to the young dragon in the dragon egg instantly shook a few times and then transmitted its happy thoughts to Yi Chen. After feeling the young dragon's happy thoughts, Yi Chen could not help but smile and then look toward the main hall of the dragon palace. The puppet bug queen of the insect clan from the outer world should have appeared when the meteor fell. He did not know if he would encounter the insect clan from the outer world in the future. In any case, it was indeed an unexpected surprise that killing the insect clan from the outer world would give him innate merit. In his previous life, the news of the insect clan from the outer world was not exposed probably because of the innate merit. Those players who knew that killing the insect clan from the outer world could give him innate merit all kept it secret. They only wanted to obtain more innate merit on their own side. Thinking of this, Yi Chen flew straight out of the main hall and then came to the sky above the dragon palace. Looking at the huge dragon palace, Yi Chen clapped his right hand in the air. Boom! It was a loud sound. A fireball instantly burst out and then rushed toward the main hall of the dragon palace. In the blink of an eye, the fireball split into 10,000. What was even more exaggerated was that the 10,000 small fireballs expanded with the wind. By the time they reached the buildings in the dragon palace, they had already merged together and enveloped the entire dragon palace. The originally sparkling dragon palace at the bottom of the sea was covered by a sea of fire in an instant and then burned violently. In fact, it was only Yi Chen's fire that was burning, not the buildings in the dragon palace. The buildings here were all built with the immortal level material, white jade crystal. They were not afraid of being burned by the fire at all. Yi Chen did this just in case. After all, the puppet bug queen from the insect clan from the outer world had settled down here. If it had any special arrangements, such as laying eggs on the buildings made of white jade crystal, that would not be the result that Yi Chen wanted to see. After all, Yi Chen wanted to take away all the buildings in the dragon palace at the bottom of the sea. As time passed, the entire dragon palace was covered by the sea of fire, burning again and again. Yi Chen, who was floating above the dragon palace, scanned every corner of the dragon palace over and over again with his mind sense. Just when Yi Chen thought that there was no sign of the insect clan from the outer world in the dragon palace, a sharp roar suddenly sounded. "Human, you deserve to die." Chapter 6:25. The roar was full of violent killing intent. As soon as it appeared, it rushed towards Yi Chun, as if it wanted to swallow Yi Chun and chew him to pieces. Hearing the roar, Yi Chun's eyes widened when he sensed the boiling, tyrannical killing intent. An even more tyrannical killing intent instantly rose from Yi Chun's body. Then, it directly met the tyrannical killing intent that was rapidly rushing towards Yi Chun. In the next second, Yi Chun's extremely violent killing intent collided with the violent killing intent that was rushing toward him. A huge explosion sounded in the air. Boom! In the originally windless dragon palace at the bottom of the sea, a gale that was far stronger than Force 12 instantly blew up. Numerous small tornadoes appeared in the dragon palace, one after another. How could it be? How could a human's killing intent be stronger than mine? An incredulous exclamation sounded out of nowhere at this moment. Hearing this, Yi Chun smiled coldly. Then he looked at the void in front of him and shouted, "How dare you compete with the sun and the moon and nobody?" Yi Chun already had an accurate judgment of who the voice came from in the distorted space was. Except for the insect tribe from the outer world, it could not be the demon tribe, let alone the wizard tribe. Because this was the dragon palace at the bottom of the sea. Yi Chun had just killed numerous puppet insect mothers of the insect tribe from the outer world and 5 puppet insect queens of the insect tribe from the outer world. Such an action could only attract the hatred of the insect tribe from the outer world. In addition, it was impossible for the demon tribe and the wizard tribe to come directly from the untainted world. Therefore, the result was self-evident. After finishing his words, Yi Chun raised his right hand and violently chopped at the void in front of him. In the next second, the sound of cloth being torn was heard intensely. Swish, 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 hundreds of 10-meter-long space blades appeared out of nowhere and rapidly cut towards the space 300 meters in front of Yi Chun. The space there was warping and expanding rapidly. Yi Chun's target was there. Previously, Yi Chun's divine awareness was fully focused on exploring the dragon palace at the bottom of the sea, in case there were still insect tribe or insect tribe's eggs hiding there. He did not pay attention to the space above the dragon palace. Therefore, Yi Chun did not discover the changes in the space above the dragon palace. If it were not for the fact that the alien insect of unknown species and level was so pretentious that it released its killing intent to Yi Chun before it was teleported to the dragon palace at the bottom of the sea, Yi Chun might not have discovered it until it arrived at the dragon palace at the bottom of the sea. Yi Chun did not know how the insectoids from outer space locked onto the dragon palace at the bottom of the sea and opened a space tunnel from somewhere in the starry sky to the dragon palace at the bottom of the sea. However, this did not stop Yi Chun from attacking the alien insect on the other side of the warp space. For Yi Chun, no matter if the enemy was a human, a demon, a wizard, or an alien insect, as long as they were hostile to Yi Chun, he would kill them. With the release of the space blades, the warped space above the dragon palace at the bottom of the sea, which had been expanding rapidly, suddenly expanded tenfold. In the next second, 2 shiny black legs covered with barbs like the forelimbs of a mantis drilled out of the warped space. The blade foot was very large. Only a small part of it was exposed, but it was already 20 meters long. At this moment, the merciless and brutal killing intent and the endless thirst for blood directly surged in the dragon palace at the bottom of the sea. Blood, blood, blood. Thirst for blood, thirst for endless blood, thirst for devouring all living beings. This was a thought that only wanted to destroy. It was cold and tyrannical. After sensing the brutal thought from the alien insect, Yi Chun's eyes shone with cold light. At this moment, the space blade released by Yi Chun instantly descended. In the next second, hundreds of sounds like sharp blades cutting flesh were heard. Poochie, Poochie, Poochie. The 2 legs of the 2 unknown insect that had just appeared were cut into hundreds of pieces in an instant. However, the space blades did not disappear. Instead, after cutting the legs of the alien insect that wanted to descend to the dragon palace at the bottom of the sea, they directly rushed into the warped space. In the next second, an extremely mournful scream suddenly rang out. No, the scream was very loud, full of disbelief, unwillingness, and deep despair. Then, the scream stopped abruptly. In the next second, the warp space in front of Yi Chun disappeared. At this moment, the system notification sounded. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chun for being the first to kill a 1-star warrior of the alien insect race, the Blade Arm Demon Puppet. Player Yi Chun is rewarded with innate merit points x 1 million. As soon as the system notification ended, Yi Chun's chaotic techniques, the 9 revolutions mysterious art, and the Heavenly Knight thunder controlling technique automatically operated twice as fast. At the same time, an even more mysterious aura appeared in Yi Chen's mind. At this moment, Yi Chen's understanding of the techniques and his understanding of all living beings became clearer. Sensing the changes in his body, Yi Chen's eyes suddenly lit up. Damn it, the alien insect race must be killed, and it must be a massacre. Thinking of this, Yi Chun directly looked at the hundreds of legs of the 1-star warrior, the Blade Arm Demon Puppet that had been cut off by the space blades. Black and shiny, even if the limbs were cut off, they still emitted an endless destructive aura. From the intent emitted by this 1-star battle General Blade Arm Devil Puppet, the outer world insect race should be a race that only existed for destruction. The great enemy of all living beings. Thinking of this, Yi Chen's eyes narrowed, and a cold light flashed across them. At this moment, Yi Chun, who had sensed that the hundreds of legs of the 1-star warrior, the Blade Arm Demon Puppet, did not show any signs of being burned, opened his eyes wide. Even the flames from the innate spiritual treasure, the Fire Spirit Pearl, could not burn the legs of the 1-star warrior, the Blade Arm Demon Puppet. They saw that the sea of flames currently burning the entire Dragon Palace. Under the sea of flames was burning the 1-star battle General Blade Arm Devil Puppet. It was like the immortal grade material that forged the entire Dragon Palace, white jade crystal. No matter how the sea of flames burned, it was not damaged in the slightest. If all the alien insect race were like this, then the alien insect race would not be easy to deal with. However, this was also the reason why the Fire Spirit Pearl had only been refined by 1%. If the Fire Spirit Pearl was completely refined, the flames it released would not be able to cause any damage to the alien insect race. Thinking of this, Yi Chen's left hand pointed in the air. In the next second, a thunderous sound that shook the entire Dragon Palace instantly sounded. Boom, crack, crack. At the same time, the red karmic fire thunder instantly appeared and struck the hundreds of legs of the 1-star warrior, the Blade Arm Demon Puppet, on the ground. Boom! A huge sound rang out. The red lotus karmic fire and the red lightning formed a blood-colored lotus that instantly appeared and enveloped the hundreds of legs of the 1-star warrior, the Blade Arm Demon Puppet. In the next second, an extremely concentrated explosion instantly sounded out. Bang, bang, bang. Pung, pung, pung. After hearing the unusual sound, Yi Chun used his consciousness to explore the Dragon Palace at the bottom of the sea. In the next second, Yi Chun couldn't help but frown. Damn it, that's why the bladed arm devil puppet locked onto this place so easily. It turned out that the Dragon Palace at the bottom of the sea was a spatial coordinate specially set up by the insect race. Thinking of this, Yi Chun looked at the Dragon Palace at the bottom of the sea again. To be precise, he looked at the white jade crystal that was used to build the Dragon Palace at the bottom of the sea. At this moment, the entire Dragon Palace at the bottom of the sea was constantly being roasted by the sea of fire. Layer after layer of strange runes were exposed and then exploded in the sea of fire. He didn't expect the insect race to use the white jade crystal in this way. However, he did not know what method they used to carve these strange runes on the white jade crystal without damaging the white jade crystal. The white jade crystal was a top immortal grade material with extremely high hardness. It was basically impossible to carve runes on it without damaging the white jade crystal. But this situation was abnormal for the insect race. Not only did they have a way to carve the strange runes on the white jade crystal, but they also kept the white jade crystal intact. How could Yi Chun not be surprised when he discovered this fact? When he encountered the insect race in the future, he would catch one and force it to tell him the method of carving runes on the white jade crystal. When Yi Chun thought of this, he naturally wanted to use the method of carving runes on the white jade crystals. He wanted to try carving runes on the white jade crystals or other building materials that were better than the white jade crystals. If he succeeded, then Yi Chun's reincarnation immortal city would really become an abnormal existence. After all immortal cities were protected by arrays, and Yi Chun's reincarnation immortal city was no exception. Otherwise, if anyone could break in, then even if Yi Chun built a fate dynasty, it would be useless. The first choice to build an array in the immortal city was a flight prohibition array. This way, when enemies came near the immortal city, they would not be able to fly. In addition to the flight prohibition array, the second most important array in the immortal city was an air defense array. To be precise, it was an array for defensive spells, dharma treasures, and spiritual treasures. Without this array, even if enemies could not fly, they could directly cast spells from a distance and bombard the city with spells. At that time, there would be a lot of trouble. In addition to these two essential arrays, the immortal city was left with a sturdy array on the city walls. If enemies wanted to break into the immortal city, they would choose to attack it head-on when casting spells from a distance or using treasures like spiritual treasures did not work. At that time, the sturdy array on the city walls would come into play. Of course, the material of the city walls was also the key. The harder it was to break through. But the key to the problem was this. The harder the city walls were, the harder it was to carve runes on them. For example, the city walls made of the white jade crystal were not able to carve runes on them at all. Although the hardness of the white jade crystal was enough to make many people despair, there were still existences that could destroy it. Otherwise, Yi Chun would not have thought of robbing the insect tribe of the extraterrestrial world when he found that they had the ability to carve runes on the white jade crystal. As long as Yi Chun could get the ability of the insect tribe of the extraterrestrial world to carve runes on the white jade crystal, Yi Chun would definitely use the white jade crystal to build the city walls of the reincarnation immortal city and then carve runes on them. In this way, Yi Chun's reincarnation immortal city would definitely become an abnormal existence, which was enough to make 99% of the people despair. Thinking of this, Yi Chun let out a long breath and then looked at the dragon palace at the bottom of the sea. At this moment, the weird runes that the insect tribe of the extraterrestrial world had carved on the dragon palace at the bottom of the sea had all exploded. After confirming that there were no new weird runes, Yi Chun immediately withdrew the sea of fire that was burning the dragon palace at the bottom of the sea. The next second, Yi Chun flew down directly and started the demolition. The dragon palace at the bottom of the sea, which covered an area of 10 square kilometers and was completely built by the white jade crystal, was taken into the micro-world by Yi Chun in less than 15 minutes. In addition to these, Yi Chun also obtained a lot of water-repelling pearls and luminous pearls. Following Yi Chun's plundering, the seawater submerged the dragon palace at the bottom of the sea one by one. Glancing at the empty dragon palace at the bottom of the sea, Yi Chun could not help but raise his eyebrows. Then he flew straight to the surface of the sea. Yi Chun had the ability of space transmission, but this was the bottom of the sea. If Yi Chun used the ability of space transmission here to open the space, the seawater would definitely flow through the distorted space to the place where Yi Chun wanted to go. And there, the flaming tiger Yulin was waiting for Yi Chun. Yi Chun did not want the flaming tiger Yulin to take a sea bath. After 15 minutes, Yi Chun finally flew out of the sea after electrocuting countless monsters of the aquatic tribe to death. After confirming the direction, Yi Chun took a step forward and disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already on the beach in front of the flaming tiger Yulin, who was waiting for Yi Chun's return. As soon as Yi Chun appeared, the flaming tiger Yulin raised a huge turtle and said to Yi-chun, as if she was asking for credit, "Big brother, look, I caught a little tortoise." You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.